All right,
you ready?
chat. Let's see it. Who is excited? Let's see who in chat is excited for the 3rd episode of Red Planet. I want to see little excited little pog champs.
Yeah,
Who are my
let's get
little
some-
excited little pog champs in the chat? So excited.
There you go. Wide peepo blankets. That's what I want to see.
Jesus Christ.
That's fucking exactly what I want to see.
Amazing.
Teeth check. Jesus.
Teeth check for the Brits. Thank you.
Wow.
Necessary.
Wow.
Brothophobia is I don't
You
know
know,
if it's terms of
one
service.
thing-
But
The one fucking thing that
Alright.
we haven't got covered on our healthcare, dentistry. And you all are
It's the same down
zooming
here.
in on it. It's like, okay, fucking broken limb chat for my Americans. Fucking affording you
Oh, I guess I
medication
didn't
chat,
know.
check for my Americans. Being able to get a fucking flu shot in flu season for my Americans.
yeah,
Wow.
bless you. Bless you all. Welcome everyone. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, everyone. Okay, I think we're in the right order now.
We're doing.
Well done,
like-
Nicole.
yeah,
you you absolutely smashed that, by the way. That's really good.
How's it going, everybody? Hi, chatters. Welcome to the 3rd episode of Red Planet. Today we will be talking about killing the black pill. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things today. We're also going to be seeing if you all did your homework.
Uh-oh. Ooh.
Yeah, you thought this was fun. We lured you here with laughter and jokes and laughter with a laugh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
Uh-oh.
Well, it was it was a level up homework.
It was a
this
big
week.
step, yeah.
Big step.
Big step.
Big step.
It's all right.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. I was going to say this about homeworks. Like, we're going to bring some stuff around, I think. We're probably going to just, like, recycle some stuff and try and get people to do it again. You'll have another chance. You also just have every day
for
of your life.
sure.
Just do it. Just do
For
it
sure.
anytime.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know when do you think has slot time was in my chat earlier and I was telling him what time
So I said come in to the waiting room VC at 20 past the hour so that we would have plenty of time to do our intro, go through the
perfect.
news section I have, and then we can bring them in.
Nice.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's great.
I was just thinking for like
great.
the
Cool.
going live image that it might be a little
Good point.
We can take a little we can do a little group photo
Let's do a
live
group
on
photo and
air.
then we'll do another one.
Yeah.
How about that?
A
Yeah,
little
yeah.
later.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So chat, put on your biggest smiley faces. We're going to put this on the internet. This will be on twitter.com/red_planet_TV. And all of us on the panel are going to retweet it. So you're going to be on 4 different Twitter accounts right now. Maybe
You
more.
can point to the you can do the Leo pointing at the screen meme.
Yeah,
You can be
that's
like,
it.
that's me in the chat.
Whoa, Mom, I'm famous.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So everyone say cheese.
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 It's probably awful.
Great.
Probably
Wow.
awful. Let's
All
see.
right. Right. Let me get the show notes up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're gonna start with news.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got some nice depressing news to talk about.
Yes.
I
So that
love
we
depressing
can-
news.
Lead in and get everyone really black-pilled, and then
Yeah,
Mildred can come on and cheer us all up.
That's
It's
right.
like, yeah, the contrast, you know? It's like when Bob Ross is like painting the little trees and he's like, you know, you got to have the light next to the dark to
Exactly.
remind you, you know, like the dark
Yeah.
times and the light times.
That's unironically beautiful, Tim. Unironically.
It's really sad when he
beautiful.
says it because then he's like, I'm going through one of these dark times at the moment.
Oh my god, no, Bob!
Oh, no!
By the way,
Shit.
I posted in the now Salma's out eating their you know what, I want the little bunny to make an appearance because she's normally doesn't come out.
Yeah.
I posted it in the shadowy cabal.
Yeah. I am
Wicked.
posting it.
That's where we plan
Bro.
all sorts of evil things, chat.
Yeah,
Mhm. That's why it's called the Shadowy Cabal.
exactly.
Yeah.
This is we're the baddies, in case you didn't know.
That's
Yes.
right.
You're on the baddie
Oh.
side of the equation.
Tim specifically is a weirdo feminist Nazi video gamer human.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
It's true.
true.
One of
I've
the
been
funniest things I've ever seen.
Called
So-
the fuck out.
Yeah, so just for context, chat, obviously Tim is, well, some of those things, but like, you know, this, I don't even know what it was.
Some of
It was
those
just
things,
this-
but which
Tim is
ones?
obviously a Nazi. Whether he's human, who knows?
like,
Oh,
what?
the Nazi you're a
yeah.
feminist Nazi human. Oh, that was
Yeah,
great.
the video game Nazi human.
Yeah.
You know how Nazis are? They're famously feminists. Always.
Yeah,
standing
famous
up for
feminist
women,
Nazis.
trying to liberate
Correct.
them.
Yeah.
And Nazi human because, you know, it's
You have to
just
make the
so
distinction
broad.
of
We have
human.
to specify, make sure we know what kind of Nazi? A human Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
dolphin Nazis.
No.
No
Mm.
problem.
No, there's dolphins can't be
Yeah,
Nazis. That's why
completely
fascism
separate
is
problem.
based.
Right.
If we had dolphin Nazis, we'd just be fucked. Like, game over for us, honestly.
True.
We're so blessed that it's these beige chino polo neck dipshits instead of dolphins. Dolphins would fucking end us.
That's correct. Oh.
All right. Tell me when, who's tweeting it out right now?
Me. you can
I've
hear
just
me
tweeted my
clicking and clacking.
own tweet, and then
All right,
I'll
I'm doing
find-
it too.
Okay,
I'll find
and
the planet.
tweeted. All right.
You're
Okay.
getting a real look at the behind the scenes of the Red Planet show.
Yeah, yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
this is
It's
for
not
the
even like
early
behind the
crew.
scenes. Like we do it all in front of the scenes.
Yeah. After people that come here from the scene, the tweet, they're not like you. You're different. You get to see
That's
the inside
right.
stuff. You're, not to be too parasocial, but you're pretty much. This makes us best friends for life.
All of us, the four of us, we're
Oh
your
no,
blunt
like
rotation.
everyone in the chat as well with
You-
us. We're all now
Chat,
best
come
friends.
come over to the Red Planet Hype House, and we're gonna blaze it.
Yeah, I'm your dad.
High power
Should we
slash
Literally your dad now.
commune.
All right, let's start it.
Okay, Sophie, you've got an
Yep.
article you want to read.
Right,
It's for all the Americans in chat, all the non-bros in
little
chat.
fascism chat for the Brits, real cool. Little funny meme about Britain right
I
now.
love that.
Um,
Yeah,
Mm.
Nicole, I've sent a link to this article, and it's a site called Galdem, which is like a play on Mandem. So it's like a feminist, lefty, British reporting outlet, and they do a lot of the best lefty reporting in Britain right now, actually.
Yeah.
And when I told you about the PCSC bill, you had no idea what I was talking about, right?
Mhm. Which is really
I
concerning
have no idea.
that I didn't. And it doesn't,
Right.
Pat, when you don't know about these things, it doesn't make you like a bad person or something. But
Right.
there's reasons why you're not made aware of certain things. There's reason why you're made aware of other things. Or when I say other things, I mean even things that aren't even true. Just
Right.
crap made up. So that's the keys jingling in your face. In the meantime, your rights are being stripped away from you. So that
Exactly.
capitalism can maintain its like oppressive force over you.
Yeah.
By the way, that's what we call fascism. That's what fascism is.
Yeah, and like the whole thing to distract us at the minute in the UK is Boris Johnson and his cabinet had
Oh, yeah.
parties.
All messed
They
up.
had a
parties
Yeah.
during COVID, which let's face it, at
Just
this
think
point,
parties.
right? Like, let's face it, at this point, like it's totally inconsequential. There were so many people doing this anyway, and nothing happened to them anyway. So,
All right,
It's
I don't want to be
just
late
opposite.
for Mildred when Mildred gets in chat, so let's. I'm gonna press on with this article. Nicole, you hadn't heard of the PCSC bill when I told you about it. It's fucking shocking, and you were really shocked when I told you about it appropriately. But I'm gonna breeze through some of the other bills that our conservative government wants to put through this year, so we can all get nice and fucking black pilled. Right.
Before we kill that black pill as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. We gotta look. This is a part of what we'll be talking about today. I think you have to get informed on how bad things are to do anything about it. Right? It's one of the most effective ways that you can get hope. First, you got to learn about it. So yeah, and let's get some international solidarity because our politics online are just so fucking American. And here's some just
absolutely.
fascism happening in the UK right now. So, the Nationality and Borders Bill, what is it? Priti Patel's new attempt to stop immigration, an exceedingly nasty bill that seeks to criminalize asylum seekers based on their means of arrival. So basically, like, I'm just going to read out a bit of the bullet points to skim through. Right, asylum seekers arriving in the UK using methods deemed illegal, such as by boat via the English Channel, could be penalised and liable for up to 4 years in prison. Refugees will be sorted into groups 1 and 2, and if they haven't jumped through a bunch of tiny little hoops, they'll be in group 2, and they'll face an even more hostile environment than they already do. Introduction of an offshore processing centre, which is what Australia already does.
Australian, yeah.
Yeah, it's just basically a fucking concentration camp for refugees, and it's really fucked and scary. Increasing the standard of proof needed by asylum seekers to show that they are, that they are who they say they are, right? If they've come from a country that persecutes LGBTQ people, right, then it's prove you're gay, prove you're trans, right? Which, I mean, the UK government already has a fucking raging hard-on for making trans people prove they're trans, but 10 times more if they're fleeing from a country where they would otherwise die. Obstacles introduced in the appeals process, such as preventing the fast tracking of specific cases, of removing certain appeal stages altogether, right? Just a consistent theme we're going to hit throughout these bills is just them removing all right to challenge the system whatsoever. Reduction of the threshold of what encapsulates serious crime, and thus removes protections from an individual under the Refugee Convention. And so I just want to say this link, I'm going to drop this link in chat. I hope mods will repost it. And basically, after every bill, it tells you where can I read more about it? What stage is it at? What can we do? So if you're in the UK, if you have friends in the UK, or if you just want to share this around and just help people out, read through all the what we can do, because this shit's really fucking scary. All right. The elections bill. What is it? A bill supposedly to ensure UK elections remain fair and secure. Anyone know where this?
Yeah. Was that something that is there a problem there? Is there why would they need that?
Mandatory voter ID for all voters?
If anyone doesn't know, voter IDs are racist. In America, they're especially racist, but there are all sorts of things. It's a form of voter suppression, but you can really it's very racist shit, as well as other things. Like I said.
This is a really crucial part of the bill here. The Electoral Commission would no longer be able to prosecute parties and campaigners who break electoral law. So the laws will still be there about how parties should behave. If parties break the law, there's just literally no consequences for them. None whatsoever. Because this was a huge discourse that went around after Brexit, when there was all of this campaigning from the Tories and from UKIP and from all the people in favor of Brexit and all the people in favor of just destroying our entire society. They'd just been lying loads and channeling in loads of illegal donations. People kept on pointing it out and being we should do something about that. Now they're just we should just make it so they can't prosecute.
Yeah. So it's still against the law, but the punishment is nothing.
Yeah, exactly, literally. Because
you just gotta sit and think about what you did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go and sit in the naughty corner. So the bill would remove the 15-year limit on voting rights for British citizens living overseas, because they know that and Tim can vouch this one, British expats who live around the world, the most racist people on earth.
Then they come over here and then they try and get all racist in our political spaces and stuff.
They are literally
they're complaining about
and they're the most racist people. It's a nightmare. Right. Meanwhile, the bill would simultaneously limit the amount of cash available from non-party groups like trade unions. This is a huge thing because so our new Labour leader, Keir Starmer, who's just a spineless big wet boy, has been deliberately pushing the left out of the Labour Party as much as possible, and he is basically cutting off all ties between the Labour Party and all the unions in the UK.
Important to note there as well that there seemed to have been an also almost targeted campaign against left Jewish people as well in the party. Yeah.
Yes.
Put that in there.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. Yeah, and now they're basically doing this to make sure that then the unions can't go and support any other party either.
How ironic that it's the Labour Party that is just we're gonna make sure this has nothing to do with labor.
Yeah.
It
was a criticism of our Labour Party
threat to the status quo, right? And then they bring in their boy to clean up for them. He's literally just the fucking Keir Starmer is literally just the butler who comes in after Boris Johnson and all of the other Bullingdon boys fucking toffs have just like jizzed all over the party room and cleans up after them. He's such a fucking useless piece of shit, and he is just their servant. Right. Okay, right.
Sophie, I'm wearing
Next
a blazer.
one.
If you could not talk about jizz, this is a professional.
It's extremely
Thank you.
That's looking dope. Yeah,
The-
I don't know if you.
I'm
Thank you. This is
the next
I'm
bill
professional.
is the-
Chat. Professional. Okay, sorry.
The next
please.
bill is the most important thing in British politics right now because, and I can't say this in any more uncertain, like any more certain terms, uncomplicatedly, this will end our human right to protest completely. This bill, the police crime sentencing in courts bill, literally makes it illegal for a protest to inconvenience even one person or make too much noise. Literally, if a protest makes too much noise, it's illegal and people can receive like 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucked. It's
If
the most
you have
evil
gone
shit.
to a protest on your bike and you have a bike lock in your bag, the police could see that as you intentionally taking something to the protest where you're going to attach yourself to something and therefore cause an inconvenience to infrastructure, and you can get put in jail for that.
And before, even if it's before when the bill comes in, if you've been to a protest in the last 5 years, you are someone who they will watch and could give like basically like a special order to, where like if you show up at other future protests, you could receive harsher sentencing for attending those illegal protests, for being like a troublemaker. Like when we're saying this is fascist shit, we mean it's fascist shit, like actual fascism. New provisions on trespass will criminalize nomadic Gypsy, Romani, and traveller communities, GRT. The bill will make it a criminal offence in England and Wales for someone with a vehicle to reside or intend to reside on land without the consent of the occupier of the land. Those found to have breached the law could see their vehicles seized or being hit with a fine of nearly £3,000 or a prison sentence of up to 3 months. This new legislation must be read in the context that legal pitches for GRT households are scarce in the UK. In 2020, research found there were only 18 spaces available out of 251 registered traveller sites. GRT communities are forced into making unauthorized encampments, and now they will be persecuted further for it. This is genocidal shit. Like the UK government has been trying to like destroy traveller communities and destroy the nomadic traveller way of life for such a fucking long time, including back when we had Labour governments in. They also were fucking doing it. And this shit here is just like, it's illegal to be a traveller. Like just illegal to be a traveller is what that bill would be doing. This one I find particularly sick. Plans to expand remote justice via video and audio links for hearings, which would significantly impact access to justice for minoritized groups. If that's unclear, what they mean by that is your trial will be on a Zoom call. And if you have internet to access that call for your trial, they'll just have a trial without you.
Yeah.
It's fucked. It's
fucked.
Very
fucked. Absolutely.
Very fucked.
The online safety bill, this is one of the biggest reasons that I want to move out of this country as soon as possible, is like they're drafting this bill called the online safety bill, which is basically going to try and control the internet, like as it regards like for British citizens only. And
I love that packaging, the online safety bill, you know.
Yeah,
like
it's
safety
fucking
for who?
No, Tim, like this is nuts. One of our MPs was murdered, but he was murdered at like a town, like a
community center.
Community center meeting where he had like advertised everywhere that that's where he was going to be because he's an MP, like he's meant to meet the constituents. And some guy who like I had no idea what the guy's deal was, but the guy wasn't like radicalized online or like some kind of like online, you know, hyper online.
He didn't have an online presence, right? He didn't have an online presence.
Yeah, he wasn't even online at all. And like that murder is what they started drafting the online safety bill in response to. It's such a fucking joke. It's just such a fucking like it's laughable.
It's just more evidence that these capitalism just waits for opportunities to co-opt for its whatever purposes it wants to. Like a protest against police brutality can be co-opted to promote police. Protest against capitalism there can be merch for it on Amazon.
Getting in a book recommendation early on this episode, Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. This is literally what's going on. Just literally whenever there's something that upsets people, shakes shit up, they can just sneak in more authoritarian policies every single time. And that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
conscious thought process they're going through. All right. One of the most terrifying bills that I've ever seen tabled anywhere, Judicial Review and Courts Bill, is...
This is the fuckedest one. The
Go on.
fuckedest
Do
one.
you want to read it?
Let me read it. Hold up. I don't even have the thing open because I just wanted. I was gonna say you could.
It's
read
really
it, but-
fucked though. Like,
But this is like legit. If it's the one that I'm thinking of, this is the one where it's what Hitler did. Like it's literally what Hitler did.
Yeah.
A bill now sponsored by now Justice Secretary Dominic Raab, supposedly to reform judicial review. Judicial review is a legal challenge when a judge reviews how lawful a decision made by a public body is, like a court.
Yeah.
So, for example, judicial reviews are often employed to challenge the way the Home Office has made a decision on an asylum application, whether they followed the lawful procedure in doing so. If they didn't, they may have to hear the case again lawfully.
Right.
As this one focuses on complex legal processes, this gets a bit knotty. But essentially, the bill aims to reduce the access people have to certain types of judicial review, particularly called, what is that? Court Justice Judicial Review?
So it's basically the Home Office. If the Home Office breaks the law in deporting someone, taking away their rights, stripping their citizenship, there's plans at the moment to take away people's passports for drug offenses and their citizenship with no warning, right? And if they do that and it breaks the law to do so, nothing to be done.
Yeah, so what? Don't care. Sorry, not bothered.
Can't appeal it. No appeals.
Yeah, this isn't actually the one that I thought it was.
Were you
but
thinking
it
of
is
them
super
trying to
fucked.
cancel to shut down a trial by jury?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well, there's one where they want to change the decision made by courts as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is that's the one that Hitler literally did. Like, and that's like, I can't remember what that one's called, but it's like the Home Office will be allowed to review and change courts' decisions, which is insane.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely unhinged.
The Home Office is like, I've been saying. So for those who aren't aware, Priti Patel is a Tory MP of Southeast Asian descent, but like the fact that she is of Southeast Asian descent is kind of used as this cover by the Tory party to like put her in this position, and then the policies she's actually there and putting out are Nazi shit. Like so much of okay. You may have noticed like throughout this, the Home Office keeps coming back up again and again. The Home Office is like a lot of things, but it's partly our ICE. One of the things that it is our ICE, and like she's a fucking Nazi, like for real.
She wants public execution. She's like advocated for capital punishment and wants public executions to come back. She is.
I knew she was bad, but shit.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing, because like I said, in the media, because there is so much client journalism happening in our country, which is basically like journalists run pieces for politicians, basically, right? And so there's so much of that happening that like all you hear about is, oh, Boris Johnson had a party while COVID restrictions were happening and the Queen was mourning. Like, you're supposed to care about the Queen.
Oh yeah,
and,
I care so fucking much about the Queen.
Right, you know. It's absurd. And of course, a lot of people in this country do, and they don't care about this stuff because, let's face it, it's not going to harm you unless it, like, you know, if you're a cishet white guy, right? Which is, do you know what I mean? So,
What I think what Chloe is saying in the chat is interesting. What a fucking dystopian name for that too, Home Office. It really is. But this is the shit that like, oh, you know, like V for Vendetta. This is like what this is based on. Like, this is exactly that. You know.
George Orwell and Alan Moore wrote very specifically about like very British forms of fascism. And the Home Office is in part named after the home counties, like Oxford and that shit. Like basically, like the area of the country that English nationalists view as the real England.
Like perfect England. And it's like 5 counties or something, like small, like out of like, how many do we have? Like 100, 263 or something?
Exactly,
300?
Exactly. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Final one, Human Rights Act reforms. The Tories have wanted to reform human rights in the UK for a while. Right. Proposed reform to the Human Rights Act will deny spurious human rights claims, so says Justice Secretary Dominic Raab. Yeah, right. It's like just
Mhm.
trivial little, silly little
Yeah.
human rights claims, which would see the act revised and replaced with a Bill of Rights. So basically, like this is what they've been arguing for ages. Is like, if I can translate this into American for a second, right? You guys have this shit where they try and tell you like you have the best healthcare in the world, and socialized medicine would be like dragging it down and applying to like a lower standard everyone else has. Same argument, right? The Tories try to pretend that the human rights, and there are criticisms of human rights, but still,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that human rights are this like low standard that haven't been thought through well enough, and they'll put in a better Bill of Rights that'll give you more rights, and it's like,
Yeah.
if you fucking believe that, I've got 3 bridges to sell you, buddy. Like honestly.
Yeah.
It's mainly to allow the government to pick and choose who has access to human rights, specifically to block deportation targets from successfully challenging attempts to remove them from the UK. Top lines: a new permission stage where human rights claimants would have to be able to prove they suffered a serious disadvantage before their claim can be further heard. So, like, prove your case before you prove your case again. An attempt to ensure people subject to deportation orders who have also been convicted of a crime can't fight it using the argument that they have a right to family life. Restraint put on the ability of the UK courts to use human rights law to impose positive obligations onto public authorities without proper democratic oversight. Positive obligations are basically a duty or obligation on a national authority to act in order to protect human rights. So they're just trying to just remove all of their obligation to protect human rights in any fucking way. It's absolutely terrifying shit, and that's what's going on in the UK. That's what our 2020 looks like.
Sounds like some human wrongs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except for me, because I'm gonna fuck off out of here, and everybody who can should as well.
How about we get
that's
some
not true.
human lifts?
That's, you know.
Hey.
So,
there you go.
I want to briefly say that we will be having a stream where we do focus on, in particular, the police crime and sentencing and courts bill.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's not now. We're just brief. I mean, this was an extremely fast overview of a bunch of stuff, but we will be going to depth chat onto this one because this one is so like comically villainous. Like it's so bad. And it needs. And I also, as an American who is involved in politics, wasn't aware of it. I'm not the most like informed person, but the fact that like so many people are not informed of this is also really concerning. And it's not. I don't think it's an accident. I think it's kind of by design. So we're definitely going to do a stream.
They're trying to hide it. They're trying to make nobody do anything about it.
I've been looking tired as fuck for most of this conversation because this is something I've been screaming about for the last year. Like...
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And so many other people have as well. I literally mentioned it in my
many people talking about
trans
it,
rights
like...
protest because I'm trans. I'm at a trans rights protest, and I have to get people to hear about this shit. Like, why the fuck is nobody doing anything about this?
Mm-hmm.
But these bills are a perfect example of what I was talking about, what the official position of the show is, right? That the ways that states are behaving now are going to make way more violent resistance inevitable.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about the PCSC bill, and we'll definitely get into this way more in the episode, but obviously we'll talk more about like what can be done, try and stop it. But like, if we think about that from the position that Red Planet takes on this, right? Literally, if you make protesting illegal, if someone's like, I want shit to change, but if I protest, I'll get 10 years in jail.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're like, well, what else could I do for 10 years in jail? It's literally like, then it becomes a calculus, right? Then you're just reducing it down to like, what's the most extreme shit I could do that would get the biggest result, which I would only get the same sentence for, right? Like,
yeah.
And police.
Well, I mean, I've seen this before with cases like down here where there's like, you know, and it always ends up being like Maori or Pacifica or whatever like that, where it's like, okay, to actually get redress for, you know, like some kind of injustice or whatever, it's like, okay, well, we could do this and we could protest and we could do all this, but like, you know, like I have friends that have been like locked up for like, you know, just protesting and things like that, like people that have been like, you know, like just for like all kinds of stupid, like just non-violent protests and stuff. And it's kind of like, well, okay, so I could do that, or I could just go like fucking, I could do something that is maybe like further outside of the law and shit like that. And people have done that before, you know, and it's kind of like when you look at it, especially the way that sentencing works in New Zealand, like, you know, it's like, well, I could do this and I, you know, might go away for a couple of years. yeah, I could do this. I could go away for maybe an extra 6 months on top of that. You know,
Right.
it's just kind of like, it's like, plus I've got lots of friends and family in prison, and it's kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of a chill hang, really. No,
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a chill hang, but you know, it's like that kind of thing where it's like, well, it's like I have somewhat of a support network inside as well.
Sure,
So.
yeah. No, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, you know.
like, this is exactly it, and like, I don't know.
Like,
This
I don't want
shit
to say
is
anything too
fucking
specifically
evil,
because it's
is
like,
the thing. Like, this shit is just fucking evil, and
Yeah.
Well-
I don't even know what to say. One thing I gotta say about it is Mule's fucking right. Where's Mule on my screen? There. I'm gonna point that way. Mule's fucking right. And no, one huge reason why no fucking Britbonger is gonna do shit about this is because most of these bills we just read out are about refugees. Literally,
yeah,
like most of these bills are just about refugees, and then a couple of other them, you can really see how the system fits together. Literally, several of them are about refugees and just horrible, inhuman concentration camp style treatment of them. Another one is like, let's get expats voting, right? That same one is like, let's make so that people of color in this country cannot vote, right? And it's like, you can see the system they're trying to make.
Yeah.
They're trying to make a system where the Tory government just stays in for literally absolutely forever. It's fucking wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, yeah, I think it's important to be able to look back at the bigger picture with a lot of these things, and it's awesome that, you know, like people like Galdam are kind of like actually, you know, explaining this point by point and stuff, because that's a lot of the time, you know, it's like you might see some little, you know, like you might see an update that might be like some small part of a bill or like a bunch of different bills or whatever like that. I think for the average person, it's hard, especially when, you know, like if you say like, okay, what are you doing with this part? You know, what are you doing with this bill here?
Right.
And they say, oh, well, this is just to protect you as like an individual or whatever like that. And then you see this other one, and it's like, you know, like it's so hard to get, you know, to get people to like when you're confronting like a politician or, you know, even just like, you know, a pundit or whatever like that, to actually like get them to address the bigger picture and be like, look, what is, like, for instance, England, you know, like, what is the England that you are trying to create here? You know, like, what is it?
Yes.
So yeah, it's awesome to see groups like Gelden kind of like compiling this, and yeah, like doing a really incredible job of taking it point by point as well.
They are doing a really good job.
Huge shout out to Gelden.
I realized that I skipped one thing in the elections bill. I'm not going to drag us way back into this article, but there's just literally one thing which is really significant that I have to mention, and it relates to what we were just saying, which was the bill will alter how elections are overseen, allowing the government, as in the incumbent government, right, to more influence over how the standards elections operate under. At the moment, independent electoral commissions oversees things like how elections are run and party and electoral finance involved. The government is proposing they introduce a new strategy and policy statement, which would set out the government's priorities for electoral direction. Right? It's literally like the government's going to control the election. Like, everything about this is just like the most fucking insanely fascist shit. And also it shouldn't go unsaid, the focus on refugees is part of a wider strategy where like governments across the world are trying to like lock down a sustainable version of hyper-authoritarian capitalism. Right. Refugees are being generated en masse by climate change right now. Right?
Exactly.
On top of all of the imperialist wars that they've been generating them for hundreds of years, right now, like, climate change is a rising reason why that's happening. And I will be referencing the book Climate Leviathan a ton of times throughout this episode. But like one more, just one quick ref again. Climate Leviathan by Joel Wainwright and Jeff Mann, fucking pog as hell book. But like, Tim's right? It's this, you have to know what kind of society they're trying to make when you put all the pieces together. You can see crystal clear what they're trying to do, and you can put the pieces together outside of the UK as well. You can put all the pieces together around the world, and when you do that, you can see really clearly the kind of authoritarian fucking system they're trying to put in place.
I like this note as well. Sorry, just one last thing. Is that how it says, if this sounds vague and confusing, that's because it's designed to be. That's like such a key thing when we're looking at stuff. But anyway, Nicole, sorry, what were you about to say?
No. I want to make sure we move on because we're way over time on this topic, and we have thoughts in the waiting room for like 20 minutes.
Oh shit.
So.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Also,
no.
I think this is a good segue because everything we're saying right now seems kind of depressing, chat. Does this seem kind of like, what's the point of trying? This is such a, even just in the UK, such a comprehensive series of legislations that it is meant to just make you as doomer, black-pilled, if you will, as possible. If you don't know what that means, we'll define it in a moment. But I think this is a good segue to bring Thoughts Time on so we can discuss, although things suck, how we can maintain a hopeful perspective. And I know it might sound kind of like mushy gushy to a lot of you, but it's actually, I think, probably the most important part of it could be the most important part of this entire equation. It doesn't matter how many awesome strategies you have in your head. It doesn't matter how much theory you read. If you think that nothing is possible, you think there's no point in trying, then nothing will happen, and you will never try, and no one will ever try. I've had a lot of you come to me and talk with me about this, and so I'm really excited to bring Thought Slime on, because I remember watching Thought Slime's. I'll say when I get Thought Slime on. By the way, in a moment, I'm about to bring them on, but also we're gonna have some technical difficulties, because I'll be like rearranging some things. So please give us a moment. But anyways, let's drag Thought Slime in. Okay.
Yeah. Hey,
Okay. Mildred.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Red Planet. Nicole's rearranging the overlay so that you're included as well.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I just ranted for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna make myself a coffee. I'm definitely gonna recite the whole of the book I was just mentioning in a minute as well. I'll just give everyone else some time. I want to go cool off after all those fucking Tory policies. I'm so mad.
So I'm Bad Bunny. Sophie's
right.
me.
Yeah.
It's just a fun game we play.
And I'm you.
Okay.
But I'm also me.
Look, I'm rearranging. I'm doing it. Okay.
All right.
Everyone's fine. We're fine here. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
All right.
I think we're pretty much rearranged. Okay. Let me try.
There we go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is fine.
You don't appear to see my camera.
Yeah, I can't
I don't.
see Mildred's cam.
Oh, there you are. I see you now. Awesome.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining us.
There we go.
Oh, thank you for having me.
There are a ton of people have been in my community, been super excited to have you on. So I really appreciate you being here. The reason why I wanted you, I wanted you for this topic specifically because and this is, you might not even remember this, but I was watching your stream because Thought Time is a YouTuber chat. I know a lot of you are huge fans, so you probably don't need to be told this, but also does a Twitch stream. And I was watching Thought Time's Twitch stream one day, and somebody in your chat was asking you, how do you keep like an optimistic perspective? How do you not just like want to give up? And you gave them a really nice answer that I never heard from anyone before. Usually when people ask these questions, they're like, oh, well, everything does suck. And you know what? And they have this kind of grumbly response. And by the way, I don't blame you. I don't blame anyone for having that response. It doesn't make you a bad person or a weak person. It's kind of like the expected outcome. I mean, it's really excruciatingly hard on your own to come up with a reason to feel like anything is optimistic. But anyways, you gave a good answer, and it has something to do with, take breaks, make sure you're taking care of yourself, so on and so forth. And I thought it would be fun to have you on to talk about this further because, I don't know, it was really, that stuck with me for a really long, like I talked about the next day in my stream. I know it was probably a throwaway comment for you, but I talked about it the next day in my stream, and I was like talking about how excited I was to like see someone that actually acknowledges the feelings that we have, the doomer. It's necessarily really hard to be optimistic, but also being like, take care of yourself. There's no need to. There's a lot of conversation that I've noticed around, especially when the George Floyd protests began, that was basically along the lines of, if you're feeling like this is overwhelming and hard for you, well, that's your privilege speaking, because some people have to live in this every day and they can't take breaks, which is honestly true. That is true, but it doesn't account for like how that's not a solution to have everyone be equally exasperated and in danger and feeling like they are hanging on by an absolute thread. I don't think that that's the solution. And although it is an unfortunate reality that is in fact the case, it was really nice to see somebody acknowledge that feeling of exhaustion and be like, yeah, no, you should take breaks. Actually, it's okay, you should. And yeah.
Well, this is an extension of my larger philosophy. Just in general, I'm a proponent of taking breaks for just about anything that frustrates you. The example I always use is before I married my wife, I was putting together her bed at her new apartment, and we couldn't figure it out. It was too complicated, and we'd been doing it for hours. And I said, okay, let's take a 5-minute break and come back to it, and we'll figure it out then, and it'll be easier because we won't be so frustrated. And she was like, no, we only have one weekend to get all of this put together. Like, we don't have time to take a break. But I know from experience that if you take the time and just go take the break, let yourself rest, and then come back to it, you will get it done faster. And I think the danger is that indulgence of self-care as a tuning out.
Yes.
You have to tune out sometimes. The tuning out is how you recuperate from the rest of the time that you spent tuned in. You know?
Yeah, I talk about this a lot on my stream because I'm vegan. I talk about it with regards to trying to encourage people to be vegan, and I'm like, listen, we all have we are on different paths. We have different monetary capabilities. Some of us are in food deserts, some of us aren't. Some of us, we all have our limitations. And by the way, if anyone's not vegan here, I don't care. You don't have to tell me, oh, I can't be vegan. I don't care. I'm so used to this reaction from people. They try to get me to to acknowledge that they can't. So I go, okay, you are allowed. Be quiet, please. But I'm like, you gotta
get the V pass.
Yeah, get the V pass. Yeah. But I'm like, listen, we all have our limitations. We all are on our journeys and so on and so forth. But there's you trying to be honest about that, and then trying to still live according to your values. And then there's the other side, which is there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so therefore I get to kill my neighbor's dog and have slaves. It's just you can't just you can't just logic yourself out, because you be honest, what you're saying, there's taking breaks, and then there's just well, we have to take breaks or else we're all going to get burned out. And then it's just never, just always not doing anything or caring, which is that means we just have to kind of be honest with ourselves, chat. No liars.
I know that I've said it many times in my career, but I have come to truly detest the phrase, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Oh my God, I have too.
It's definitely something that has been it's people take it the exact wrong way, instead of it's people just treat it as oh, why try?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's the opposite.
I saw a really good explain it. Was basically how The Good Place ended, the big
no,
problem
I didn't, but you can say it.
I haven't seen this.
That's why I'm saying it's spoiler-free.
Tell me when you're done. Do this.
Tell me the spoilers.
I'm saying the spoiler-free version.
You just said how it was gonna end. Okay, sorry. What?
No,
okay.
I'm saying for those who saw it, the big problem they found towards the end of Good Place, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. That's the way you're supposed to understand that phrase, is you can't do things and not have it tie into a bigger system, right?
That and you can't consume the ethical version, and that solves the conundrum. The same way that
exactly.
you can't go by the
Yes.
Being vegan is I think the morally better choice. I'm not going to lecture people on what to do, but that doesn't mean that when I buy an Impossible Burger, I am doing activism by doing that.
Yes, we actually had this whole conversation earlier. I was like, this is so off track of what we're talking about, the black pill stuff. But I was being I'm going to ask all of you just really quick: is being vegan direct action?
No.
Okay, but why?
But direct
depends
action
what you
doesn't
do,
just
I
mean
guess.
doing an action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Direct
that's what I
action,
mean. When people say
direct action is when people organize to directly resist the systems that are hurting them or their communities or the planet or
okay, but
other people
can't that also be? By the way, I have no skin in this game. I'm going to be vegan regardless. It's not going to change my I've been vegan for 15 years or something. It's more of whenever you talk, it's so common when you talk to people that are trying to urge people to do things. They're well, what can I do? They're direct action, mutual aid. Yeah. And they say those too. Organized. Direct action, mutual aid. It's like, what is direct action?
A really common counter argument people make against veganism is like, but the cow gets killed anyway, right?
Yeah.
So when you go and chain yourself to a digger, the tree does not get cut down, and that's why you chaining yourself to a digger is direct action.
Yeah, like
and
if you go,
it's like indirect action. That's the point. Like you're trying to affect market forces and therefore like change the demand and supply and demand relationship. It's indirect by definition. Yeah. I wanted to mention like the thing about like getting burned out is like it's not.
Before we get back on topic, can I just before we discuss the thing we're meant to discuss, can I just one more bit about the derail?
Yes.
It just in regards to direct action, I've wanted to get this off my chest for a long time, but I was once watching a stream where it was like I can't remember somebody, but they were debating a lib, and the person claimed that canvassing for a political party was direct action.
I was just talking about this earlier. I'm like, I
said,
bet
like,
you.
No, it's activism. I'm not saying this from like a moral perspective that what you're doing is not useful. What I'm saying is it's definition.
Yeah,
and they were like,
it's not that thing.
And I remember they said to me, "Okay, well, you can be the most morally, ideologically pure person in the gas chamber."
Yeah,
and it was like
Jesus Christ,
that is such a fucking escalation. Just from like a
people need to chill.
Term.
People need to chill.
Yeah.
How can you be all like take that energy and put it into something productive? Don't be like, I'm knocking on doors and my energy is now spent making Holocaust analogies. Like you're not that energy. You're like vote blue no matter who, or else it's basically Holocaust stuff.
That's exactly the thing I was going to bring up, right? So I don't think it is people being like, I need to avoid burnout, so I'm just going to chill out all the time. I think it's that like people do put in effort, get burned out, and then take breaks, and that's fine. And that's for each person, however healthy you're being. Please try and be healthy. Please try and take care of yourself. But the things they're putting their effort into are like a dude online made a hypothetical about Nazis, which was the most asinine shit I've ever heard in my life, and I need to go back to bed now. Like that effort, that was wasted effort. Your time and energy was wasted there. You could have literally been like out like helping someone resist eviction. Like I think it's next episode. I forget the schedule right. No, it's 2 weeks from now. We'll literally do shit with the renters union. You can learn how to resist evictions, right? That's some shit you could be doing. And instead you're just like getting mad as fuck about some guy who doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter.
Oh gosh. This
literally doesn't matter.
Twitter. What a place. What a place to be.
With the real battles of war.
I want to make sure that before we move on, I hope if we're done with the derail, I'm totally fine if we're not. But if we're done with the derail, I would like to take a moment to define black pill, because I had someone in the chat ask, and I'm like, I'm sure there's people that aren't extraordinarily online that don't know these kind of like terms. And also, I think it's just always good to make sure we're all on the same page.
All people have as much brainworms as me.
Yes, exactly as many. And if they're not, they're cringe. More brainworms cringe, less cringe. You're perfect.
I'm going to duck out for 5 minutes and check on the cat.
And
okay.
There is no worse thing on earth than being cringed, is there? Like, think of
true. If my time isn't online,
global warming is because of the cringe emissions. Just emissions of cringe.
So Bill Gates could actually single-handedly stop global warming by just being less cringe.
Don't be cringe.
So the Matrix, a good movie according to some people, according to others, not as good as The Matrix Reloaded. In The Matrix, there was a good face, Mildred. Okay, there's the red pill and the blue pill, right? And the red pill as a metaphor, which in the movie is the thing that makes you wake up from the simulation, the lie that you're living, it was co-opted by a bunch of bad people who suck. Among them, incels, and their metaphor of the red pill was
I words. Twitch does not allow us to use that term. It's a hate speech.
It's a hate word.
No
That's right.
fucking way.
A very hateful word, Sophie. I can't believe you would,
I apologize.
I can't believe you would group these misogynist
YouTubers,
terrorists.
This is like such bizarre culture shock. Like,
by the way, whore is slut, bitch, cunt. None of these words are considered hate speech, but don't say we call it the I word or the involuntary celibates.
We're going to call
okay,
them
though, because
gamers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gamers.
Is the politically correct
well,
term.
actually,
Gamers.
Mildred, you could call them what they actually are, which is misogynistic wannabe terrorists.
There you go.
I thought I said that, but faster.
Oh, you did. That's true.
So
That's
the
true.
gamers use this metaphor of the red pill to mean waking up to the truth about reality, which could be a good way to use the metaphor if you were right about what reality is. But the reality that they thought you were waking up to is the realization that minorities and feminists control everything, and some of them
and hypergamy and
some
things
of them
like
it's
that.
also the Jews. Some of them, you go a bit further, you find out it's the Jews.
Yes.
So then there's the red pill, right? Finding out that truth. And then there's the blue pill, going back to sleep. And then the incel community. Sorry, shit, fuck. Oh my god, this is wild not being able to say this word. I am losing my mind already.
It's really fucked. It's
Hey,
fucked.
and you wonder how I keep it together every day. I don't at all.
I understand you yelling on stream
now
so much
you
more
understand.
now.
Now you
I get
understand
it.
my
This
life.
is insane.
You understand.
Okay. The gamer community invented an additional pill that is not in the Matrix called the black pill, which is when you've been going around unable to get dates because you're a gamer for too long, and you just accept there is no hope. It will never improve. You can never change anything, either interpersonally or societally, and you should just give up and die. What a lot of these gamers
lie down in a rut, basically.
Yeah, I'm doing a good job.
So, yeah.
Gamers take this as either they should die by suicide or die in a blaze of glory doing a fascist terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We mean not
the
cool,
black
by the way,
pill,
for people who don't know
however,
sarcasm.
Yeah, it's like the school shooter ideology, right?
The black pill, however, has been adopted as a more broadly used metaphor for just giving up on hope in general. We aren't talking about the gamer black pill.
No.
We're talking about the leftist black pill, which is that many leftists feel arguably fair, some degree fairly, like everything is very, very, very fucked and it's going to be really hard to make it better. But I don't think it is actually going to be. So that's what we're here for today, right? Literally, like, the black pill is it's going to be impossible for it to get any better. It cannot improve, or it's going to be an insurmountable effort for it to improve. Rocking some Climate Leviathan recommendations again. In Climate Leviathan, they repeatedly use the phrase, a revolution of mythic proportions is like what somebody assessed would have to be done to like stop climate change, end capitalism, get us to a sustainable kind of planet where we're not living under horrifying authoritarian rule while billions of people die to the effects of climate change. So a revolution of mythic proportions. There's a phrase to introduce to the vocabulary of the show. We're going to have to keep saying it throughout the show from now on. Week 3 is the first appearance on record.
Nice.
That's what we're reporting on. There we go. I'm doing great with my Twitch speak today.
Very proud of you.
We touched on this on the first episode, didn't we? I think very briefly, because I think a lot of us have been excited about this stream in particular.
Yeah.
How important it is, because of course, like, a happy comrade is, gonna be able to do a lot more, right? And also it's just nicer to be happy. And like, I think we spoke about how it was the Mark Fisher thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the book that he wrote?
Capitalist Realism.
Capitalist Realism. There it is.
Which, to be clear about this, because I'm always shit talking it when it comes up on stream, is a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's lots to talk shit about, but it's still like a really good book with some great concepts.
And the crucial quote from Capitalist Realism is, "It is easier for people to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism." Yeah. And the point that I've made before, and I'll make it tread concisely again here, is a lot of people read that and did not go, yes, that is a delusion I suffer from and I should challenge in myself and overcome, but instead came away from it and went,
it must be more likely then, because it's easier to imagine.
Can only imagine the end of the world and not the end of capitalism. So that is true. And then there's like a secondary logic where people go, where they don't even think about themselves. They just go, if everyone can only imagine the end of the world, not the end of capitalism, that's proof that it is fucked, because no one's going to do anything about it. So it doesn't matter what I believe, because even if I believed it was fine or good or going to be chill, they all aren't going to do anything about it, and it does require work.
Have you ever heard of the term depressive realism?
Yes, I bring it up a lot actually when I'm discussing this subject. Yeah.
So there's a famous experiment that was conducted to test the hypothesis of depressive realism, where they found that
quickly for chat, depressive realism.
Depressive realism is the idea that people who suffer from depression, in fact, have a more accurate view of the world.
They could guess the jelly beans in the jar better than you.
Exactly. And the experiment that they ran, they had a light switch and a light that would just turn on and off randomly. And they asked people, turn on the light. And people who did not suffer from depression would stick with it for a while, and they thought they could figure out the pattern and get it to work. Whereas people with depression realized quite quickly that they had no control over it. And so the people who ran this study concluded, therefore, that depressive realism is correct. But depressive realism is way better at predicting depressing answers to questions. And that's kind of how I feel about capitalism. Realism.
If you've ever tried to just I don't know, do a puzzle game with someone who's suffering from really serious depression, they give up pretty quickly on that shit. I'll flip this around here to be clear. When I'm really depressed, I give up really quickly on shit that does have answers that you can find. And when I'm not really depressed, I go find the answers.
And are we gonna do the thing where we ask chat who is
let's do it. I think we're still pretty near the start of the stream. I think it's important. Chat, can you give us a 1 if you think that capitalism can be stopped, and a 0 if you think capitalism cannot be stopped and we're all going to fucking die?
Well, we're all gonna die.
We are gonna die.
I mean,
Sorry if anyone thought otherwise.
Oh, here come the 0s.
Okay, this is actually a surprising amount of 1s. Pretty impressive, actually.
A good job of giving
it's also
already.
Sample bias. Let's be clear.
Yes.
The way that we framed it is do you agree with our cool position, or are you?
Are you awesome, or are you not?
Just about to say that. Just about to say that. Yeah, because we've obviously been talking about how this is a bad thing, chat, and you shouldn't be doing this, right?
That's why we should have done it as soon as we opened the show, but then Nicole put us on chat.
It's always my fault, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's why. I just wanted to bring some misogyny in here. I think that's the important thing.
Well, the stream's been lacking. Let's
Nicole
face
doesn't
it.
get enough of that. Yeah.
That's gonna bring in the views. That's gonna get the clout. Come on.
Yeah, someone clip this. This is the new viral thing.
Put it on live stream fails. Obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean I'm glad, frankly, if many of our audience do feel that way, but also plenty of people did put 0s, and it is a broad thing that is in our spaces and all over the place now, right? I think one thing, maybe I'm gonna keep on bringing out shit from Climate Leviathan because I find it to be genuinely one of the most the best books for giving you hope, which is kind of ironic because it's a pretty good appraisal of how bad the climate is, but it's also you also read it and you're like, nah, we can fix that. But one of the things I think is really striking that they get across really early in Climate Leviathan is the idea that they're not failing to manage climate change. They are managing climate change exactly as they intend to, right? Neoliberal Western governments are absolutely managing climate change exactly to plan. But I don't know. So basically, they break down this model that there are kind of 4. I've been saying it's the political compass that we'll need for the future, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
There are 4 different kind of aspirations people have politically for the future of the planet. And actually, Nicole, I'll drop this in the chat for you to put up on screen.
Oh, gosh.
But basically, the 2x2 grid.
I've been working this whole time in the other overlay, trying to squint and see it. Might as well just do it. I'll do it live. Fine. All right, this
You're
is
doing
what we're
great,
doing with.
by the way. You're doing.
We have Sophie and then
phenomenally.
anonymous people with no names, no chat. but let's
You know
let's
what?
go for it.
That's anarchism. That's the final.
There we go. We
Is
got
it-
it.
Final
Anarchism turned
bit.
out to just be
How about
chaos
this?
all the time.
Does this look good? This is good, right? This is good. This isn't bad.
All right, I'll drop it in Shadowy Cabal, and you can get it up on there.
Always just post it in the
Basically-
chat too, because I always have that open for other people to see
like
if you really want to.
It's just an image, so I don't.
Oh,
it's not a
okay,
link.
gotcha. Okay.
So it's this 2x2 grid, right? And it's planetary sovereignty and anti-planetary sovereignty, capitalist and non-capitalist. And what they're trying to communicate here is that plan I was describing, like they are managing climate change exactly as they intend to, that's climate leviathan, as in all the capitalist countries that currently have all of the power like want to establish a sustainable capitalism that they can keep doing. If you're laughing at the word like the phrase sustainable capitalism, don't worry, it's very much also my thought on the matter. Yes, that's very silly.
If you view sustainable as like sustainable for the planet, yeah, it's laughable.
Right, yeah.
But sustainable for
saw someone in the
capitalism
chat
is a different
earlier.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
If
I did
it's-
see
if
someone
it's
say something
sustainable-
about like,
Yeah.
is there like a better capitalism or something like that, or is like, do we have to end it to make it better or something like that? And I just think that like the like capitalism is not something that like, you know, it's like an infinite growth thing or whatever
Yes.
like that. There's no scenario that
Yeah.
we can kind of tame it and it's still capitalism.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Yeah. So
There's even if you had markets and trade and money, those things aren't capitalism. Like the fundament, if you have markets and trade and money under a government which works for the people, that's socialism. Like the power relation in society fundamentally shifting to Mildred's squinting at my bad.
I squinted.
Oh, no,
I
I'm-
squinted
bad
too, and I don't get no
definitions here.
credit for it.
I'm trying to talk about a fringe example here. I'm not trying to say.
I want to make sure everyone knows I squinted as well. I actually had this discussion earlier today with like socialism, what it is, and socialism is like the way that we use the word as it applies to like the capitalist hell world we live in and things that we do within it. I don't think that markets are ever socialist, but I do think that
I agree.
there are, if we're doing, say, it's something, so like, I don't think Medicare for All is you could call it a market per se, but something like Medicare for All, if you have Medicare for All in your system, it doesn't make all of a sudden your system is now a socialism, but I think it is in the context of capitalism, and Mildred, let me know what you think of this, because I've been, I think it is a socialist effort within the context of capitalism, but I don't think it makes it socialism, and I would never call that socialism.
No, but like, you know, if the standard is that we can't do anything socialistly as long as capitalism exists, then how the fuck are we going to overturn capitalism?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
this is all,
I
yeah.
completely agree with that. I was trying to describe a hypothetical in which like a government exists within global capitalism and there's still markets and trade and shit. Like the power relation is different. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think, and where I bristled, and I have to say it because otherwise they take away my anarchism license. Is and the government issues those licenses.
They
It's really
do,
fucked
yeah.
up.
The
weird.
anarchist
It's wild.
government.
Yeah. To my view, and it, you know, it comes down to what the word government means here, but the systems of the state as it exists and capitalism are mutually self-enforcing and self-replicating phenomenon.
Yeah.
So the idea that like we can leverage either, I think, and use it on behalf of the people it was designed to oppress is, I think, you know, yeah.
Sophie, in short,
I
you
think
can't
that's
just say things casually around a group of people on the left. You can't just throw
Well,
things
and,
out there.
look,
We're
look,
gonna
I
stop you. We're
also
gonna
recognize-
derail you. We're gonna make you feel bad.
I say I don't.
Theory nonsense. Honestly, I like.
Yeah,
I
know,
actually
I
agree
don't wanna-
about this. I was just trying to like. Talk
I know,
through a
I know.
thing.
I know,
I-
but if I didn't say it, then
Then
it's
your
all I would
anarchism
hear
license.
about.
They
for the
do
rest of
take
my
your
life.
anarchist license away.
The
that's
sad
fine.
part about these
Yeah,
things,
exactly.
though, the sad part about it, Sophie, is like, I know Mildred is making jokes, but honestly, there are so many people that do take advantage of some definitions or some vagaries that they're like, okay, well then that means that now I need to undermine every single communist because now they're a tanky or they're a something. And now if you've noticed, there's like an entire all the so-called social. I know, but I want to say for everyone else because other people are watching. Because this is important. There are people that are trying to co-opt these like socialism like labels, and all of their energy is spent toward undermining people like you and me based on the vagaries of socialism is vaguely this or some sort of, we know what you mean, but also now it's out there and people are gonna be like, see, now I can take advantage of this. And I wish this wasn't the world that we live in. It's ridiculous.
Sometimes you got
decided to have, and that's proof that Mildred is actually CIA who is here to derail us. So I will now carry on describing the 2x2 grid.
If I could just,
no,
it's the other point I wanted to make was this, like, precisely this that contention should not get in the way of actually doing things. And I think if you are like waiting for that ideological purity, you're going to be waiting forever.
A long time.
Like,
absolutely.
Like, I wanted to at once, and kind of everybody, I was like, I see what you're doing, you sectarian asshole. You're just tearing everybody down, and you're going to go on a rant about tankies and like, no, that was not my intent. My intent was, this was not my intent.
You got to do a bit of infighting to stop the infighting. That's
true.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I hate that word, infighting. Infighting is as trash as, at this point it says trash. Leftist infighting, the phrase is as trash as no ethical consumption under capitalism.
It is, yes, thank you.
Yes. I'm gonna go sicko mode in 10 seconds.
All right, go ahead, Sophie.
We if we can't disagree on things, then it's not meaningful consensus. I think
yes. We need to build consensus. That's the way that, yes, of course.
We're all in agreement. This is just a circle jerk. Echo chamber.
Yes.
So this 2x2 grid is maybe the way, like, maybe chuck out your political compass, it's garbage. Get this bad boy going on. Climate Leviathan is the plan that neoliberal capitalist countries have tried to be enforcing. Shit like COP26, right, that just happened in Glasgow. We all think that they didn't manage to do anything and shit like this. We should actually be incredibly skeptical of the idea that, like, a bunch of governments are, like, getting together to be like, we're going to control how climate change is handled together. Yeah. We have become so dependent on the state and so completely, like, brainwashed by its propaganda that we now I'm having my anarchist moment. That we think that, like, the state is going to manage climate change and solve climate change, whereas realistically, like, if every state dissolved into even just like horrible war right now, climate change would be over because it's all of the states that are, like, doing the climate change. So, like, Climate Leviathan, like I said, is striving for this idea of, like, a sustainable world capitalism. That's why it's in the planetary sovereignty column, right? The idea that, like, there would be one system that would control the world. I don't want to come across as a conspiracist here. I'm not saying that it would control everything about everywhere on the world with massive, like, Orwellian Big Brother authoritarian policies, but authoritarian policy would be a huge part of it. And these intergovernmental bodies do aim to say who can emit, like, you know, put out carbon emissions and when and how much, right? Like, genuinely, there are already these big calculations of like fair share according to population size and how developed the country are and shit like this. And although countries like China and India are actually, like, in the negative of their fair share according to these calculations, because they're literally, like, doing infinitely more to tackle climate change than the US, for example, like, still all these conversations focus around, like, punishing them and controlling them and insisting how they do their emissions.
Not merely that, but, like, the reason they're making those emissions in the first place is to produce things for the global north.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
They're not keeping the fruits of that pollution that goes to us, and then we're like, but you were shitty when you made it. So
absolutely, and that kind of ties back into what we were saying earlier about the you know, like, could there be a better capitalist or more socialist capitalism or whatever? When you see, like, there's a lot of these, like, democratic socialist countries, like, you know, everyone's like, oh, look at this random Scandinavian company and they do this and they do that, and then you look at how they have built, you know, like the system that they have in place is like all built on the exploitation of the imperial periphery. You know, it's kind of like like Empire has built like a really nice state for, you know, the people in their you know, in their country or whatever like that. But it all kind of like comes back to yeah, you know, like exploitation of the imperial periphery, the global south, all that kind of stuff like that, and whether it's production, extraction, whatever, you know.
Yeah, to get across the inverse of the point that I was trying to make badly before that led to a huge derail. I've been saying for a while that genuinely, like, a whole bunch of European countries, Scandinavian countries, even America, could transition to SOCDEM, or even what by some standards would be called a socialist state, without changing the global relationship of power, right? It would still be extracting and looting like resources, like labor and wealth from the imperial periphery, and using exactly that to like create a higher standard of living for people within the imperial core. Honestly, I do think that's a huge part of the plan for Climate Leviathan. So like if right now you're a whito like me in the imperial core and you're like, hey, higher standard of living, hey, free healthcare and shit, yeah, okay, fuck all the other people, right? Like there are genuinely people who will be calling themselves leftists, advocating for reforms only in their country, who are pushing really, really hard on this shit, who are like, yeah, I want communism, a good American communism, patriotic American communism, right? And it's literally like, there is no idea of like changing America's relationship to the rest of the world. There's no idea of changing Europe's relationship to the rest of the world. And any suggestions that should be done are framed as like Malthusianism and eugenics and evil genocidal projects by these same people who just literally want to have like socialism in their country only. Yeah, you know. I wanted to get that point across because I'm just trying to say, like, things some people at least would call socialism or even communism could like sit within this shit while fucking the rest of the world, and that's absolutely within Climate Leviathan. So like our old conception of like left, right, authoritarian, libertarian is just like doesn't actually mesh with what the world is trying to do in the slightest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like internationalism is kind of like, you know, even for you know, like thinkers like, you know, like, well, I always feel like I'm bringing up Fanon, but Fanon talks about like you know, like colonized people building like a national identity, like a national culture to kind of like combat you know, combat their colonizers or whatever, but it always ends with internationalism, like this is a goal, you know, and that's what you kind of have to like, you know, I think this is the trap that a lot of these like patriotic communists or whatever fall into or whatever like that, is like it's something that Fanon talked about a lot in issues of national identity and stuff. It's like internationalism has to be the end goal, and I mean, and it's something like I've seen a lot in you know, like a lot of Maori movements historically and contemporary, where it's like you know, people often think like, oh, these groups are just trying to do their thing just for their people, and then when you actually look at what everyone's saying and the theory and everything, it's always talking about like, you know, like kind of identifying and kind of like talking to Pākehā, to you know, like white people, Tory, foreigners, whatever, the ways that their working class struggles intersect with ours, and you know, like how it's like this bigger picture sort of thing like that, and it's like you know, and it's all about kind of building a better world as opposed to like a better state for us or whatever, you know.
Exactly.
One thing, what was that word you used for non-Maori people?
Pākehā. So it's like
so I've never heard it before, but I've decided now it's a slur, and
yeah, you actually can't say that. Can't say the
this
P word
stream
on
will
Twitch,
now be
Jen.
banned because you know,
like that's legitimately a thing though. Like it's
I'm not
surprised. It basically just means it was like there's Maori and then there was like Pākehā, which means like, you know, it's like defining them as like, you know, like other people, whereas because Maori literally means like us, like normal kind of like, you know, like the people that we are,
normal people,
whatever.
Not very inclusive.
Well, like normal in relation to us, sort of thing, you know. And then Pākehā means like other or whatever. but there's all these like conspiracy theories that it actually means like white pigs and stuff like that, or
So
there's one
what?
of
If it
them,
is,
that means like turnip slapper is another one. Yeah. There's like
I
all
wanted to
kinds of
make
great
the
stuff.
joke because I knew that if I didn't, or if someone didn't, then the patriotic socialists, when they respond to this stream, will say it legit.
Right.
They will. Yeah, they will.
Chat is saying
Yeah.
Palangi is a slur one. That's actually the Samoan word that means basically the same thing as Pakya. It's like it's not a Maori word. It's Samoan, and it's not a slur either. But I mean, you can use any of these words with the right tone, and you can make some of the slurs.
It actually means
like,
colonizer. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, that was.
Yeah.
Apologies,
so...
Sophie. I don't really know how to better go about this type of conversation with like.
That's okay. I'm just trying to educate on like what.
Oh, I
Climate
understand, and I'm
like,
extremely. Yes, this is a kind of a miserable. It's one of those miserable kind of like errands at this point to have to be like, well, so I'm sorry that we derailed you so hard.
This is why the CIA gives me the big bucks. I throw a little chaos.
And I don't
this
want,
is why
I
you're
don't
on the
want...
lower pay grade, Bad Bunny. That's right. Not just, you know.
If Mildred leaves us the stream losing his anarchist card, it's not going to look good for our image, and we're never going to get anyone else on the show. So I'm going to make sure that our guests are treated well.
Ultimately, like, if we just have a fun and entertaining chat, that's fine. But like, there's some stuff.
We've got shit to do.
The thing I don't want to happen for this stream is for us to build socialism, but not my personal brand.
Right. Good point.
Socialism, but not centered around you. Got it.
So the other three worlds the other three futures that they outline in Climate Leviathan, could you put that back on?
Oh yeah,
Nicole?
Yeah.
The other three futures that they outline in Climate Leviathan and the 2x2 grid are called Climate Behemoth, Climate Mao, and Climate X. Climate Behemoth is the quickest way I could say this is it's fascism. But that's not really accurate because a lot of Climate Leviathan involves like massive authoritarian policies and shit. All the stuff I was reading out at the start of the stream, all of the very fascist policies in the UK totally fit into Climate Leviathan. Totally not like what Climate Behemoth is about just like locking down and being like, I'm getting all the shit in for me, fuck everybody else, right? It's not a sustainable system at all. Even more than capitalism isn't a sustainable system. Like, we could imagine a kind of capitalism that's just like turning the world into just like a barren desert while it keeps like an increasingly smaller number of people alive that they would technically call like sustainable. Behemoth, on the other hand, is just like Trump level, like absolute mush brain, just like I'm gonna just like oh my god, shiny coins, give them to me and I will kill everyone who tries to stop me. And that's why it's in the anti-planetary sovereignty column, because it's such a like it's often such an extremely nationalist thing that it breaks down the kinds of like cooperations that countries would need to enforce Climate Leviathan. Trump is a great example. He literally pulled the US out of the Paris Climate Accords, right? He literally, because he was such a nationalist, he literally pulled them out and like, yeah. Sorry, Mule, you're going to say something?
No, I was just going to say it's kind of like that Tenpenny guy in Fallout 3, right?
Yeah. That's a great example.
Right, now our stream is again catering to gamers.
You have to look. We have to pull some of them to the left.
I mean,
so
we already said
left. Push the gamers left.
Push them left.
We've got a couple of transgenders. We've got someone said the P word already. Like it's we're really turning off the gamers.
The P word. Right. Oh gosh. my people's history. Oh. With that word, don't even. I can't. I'm sorry.
Then there's planetary sovereignty. So as in, again, a one body governing everything, right? But non-capitalist. Climate Mao. If we look at like changes that, again, China isn't communist, but like the kind of there are kinds of changes that China is putting in place now where it is doing things to try and combat climate change infinitely more than what the US is doing, where it's creating protected regions, it's having huge solar and wind farms. They banned crypto because they know it's fucking evil, shit like this, right? Which like is evil and authoritarian, and it's also like, you know, kind of good. But like the flip side of it would be like, we don't want to live under one planetary sovereignty. We don't want to live under one fucking well, I don't, certainly, as an anarchist. This is my, again, anarchist moment, but like I don't want to live under one big state with infinite power.
No.
One of the terrifying sides of planetary sovereignty is that if one governing body controls the whole world, and it does it for the sake of stopping climate change, people will have it deeply ingrained in their minds that any attempt to end that situation will bring back climate change and kill us all. So even like a communist one that many people think is doing many good things can't be criticized under any circumstances, because if we don't have that,
like a crime against the planet.
Right, exactly. And then Climate X is the final one, and obviously it's where I've kind of been leading, and where the book is kind of leading us towards. We want to have this one because it doesn't involve just billions of people dying, or as many billions of people dying as besides the ones who already are gonna, because of all the shit. But the book doesn't really actually outline like the concrete ideas of what that's going to be. And that's why it's called Climate X. It's kind of a mystery. It's kind of like it's up for us to determine between us. And this is the point I was trying to bring the conversation to, and I'm so tired.
You did a phenomenal job, Sophie. Well done.
That this book talks about everything but a clear vision of what things are actually going to be. And yet I've derived enormous hope from this book, because like it's talked through all of the possible problems, all of the existing, not just possible, but like existing fucking awful shit going on, and doesn't tell us like where we're going to go. And yet still, like, I often say that like the best things we can do are present visions of the future. I loved Mildred's video, the Slime World. Like, I want to see more people do shit like that. It's literally going to be the homework this week, is for people to go and look around and imagine a better world. But like, even without doing that, I think, this drives home my point that like educating yourself about the problem can on its own give you hope.
I think
so
that
imagining a better world, Crypto Land. I still haven't watched all that shit, but but like the imagining a better world, I think, is something that like that was like kind of core when we were talking about starting up the stream, right? Like the actual like what's the end goal? Like what are we working towards here? And I mean we probably all have like different ideas of like where that goes, but as like like a broadly left project or whatever, I think we're probably heading in the same direction. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, looking around the round table here, that we're all heading in like roughly the same direction.
It's one of the wild things, right? That like whenever I don't know if chat knows this, but I have a Twitter. This is my dark my dark reveal. I have a Twitter. I have tweeted. Therefore, you can look at any one of my tweets from any time, and they are all evil. But one of the tweets that I made that made people very, very mad was when I said that we should have solidarity with Marxist-Leninists and people who think that people consider like authoritarian communists, because we have basically the same ideology with some disagreements, and people can have their opinions about that. But
you want a spicier version of that? You want to truly make people mad?
Let's go.
Wait, chat, prepare yourselves. Everyone in chat.
It will.
I want to see Monkadubs in the chat.
I want to see a bunch of people that are prepared, little chatters, little pog champs that are prepared. Okay, let's go.
Get ready.
Pulling my ass out of the fire right now. None of you come after me anymore. It's all on them now.
That image of like the soldier in front of the sleeping child with like the arrows, that's me right now.
I'm just sleeping peacefully now.
Not only do we have to have solidarity with other tendencies, we have to learn to be more patient with liberals. Because and everyone, I can feel everyone's buttholes tensing up right now, because they think I'm going to say that we should agree with liberals. No, like,
I always do that. When I'm streaming, just
tense butthole 24/7. You gotta have it.
My thinking is, liberalism, as I is I've often framed it as a mind prison.
Yes,
as a project that is designed to limit the imagination of other peoples.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we can at once recognize that there is a global media hegemony pushing towards people towards one ideology, and then get mad at them that they have not yet escaped that ideology.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree.
I mean, there's
I-
like
yeah.
time, like obviously, like like we were all at one point we were all probably pretty libby or like whatever.
Yeah.
And
I've
I feel like
I've always had the right takes. I just want to let everyone know.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that about
Famously,
you.
yes.
Famously always
Well
had the right
done.
takes. Thank you.
Famous.
Some of us are built different. Some of us are built different. I do yoga. I am vegan. It's just some things to think about. Anyways, go on, please.
Absolutely.
Even the way that like we will use like, oh, that's some liberal shit as like a, therefore you're not a real leftist.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like you have to recognize that like you are going to spend the rest of your life undoing the brainwashing you have received
Yeah.
under like liberal power. Like that
Yeah,
process is not yet complete. I promise you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just saying earlier today, like, we really need to reconceptualize the way that we think of ideologies, because we definitely think of people as having an ideology, and then they're like, that's the thing they believe in. There's the ideology. There's the ideology in your head that you believe in, whatever you call it, right? Your view of what a perfect world would look like, and you hope that your actions and thoughts connect with that. There are also all the ideologies that have been put in your head throughout your fucking life, right? Like all that fucking capitalist liberal propaganda is still in there, and when you're not questioning it, your thoughts just fit really neatly and just snugly, just really tight and snugly comfy in with that propaganda, because it's there and you're not challenging it, right? Like no, I was actually interviewing two members from the Common Humanity Collective for an organizing interview just before the stream, and like one of the questions I asked them was like, I know that many people in my audience, when they're watching this interview, are gonna hate the idea of working with people who don't see eye to eye with them about what the perfect world should look like. What would you say? And they had a great answer, which was just like, the work is what gives you hope. The work is what teaches you the politics. The work is what like brings you towards like actually agreeing about and moving forward in the same direction. And to be clear, the work that they do is like, they're a mutual aid network. We've talked so much on this show about mutual aid already. They are a real existing one, and they're freely happy to just be like, yeah, we have all sorts of leftist tendencies and a ton of libs as well, all just hanging out together. And mostly the libs, after giving people things they need for a little while, just start to go, so tell me more about this socialism. It's pretty interesting. Like genuinely, that's the fucking thing that happens.
A thing that you have to remember as well about like specifically the doom pill, the black pill, is that when a lot of people get black pilled about leftism, they tend to slide back into putting their faith in electoral politics. And like liberal sort of like electoral politics and stuff like that. So if people are there who've like thought about something like this and gone, that sounds like a great idea, and then gone, oh wait, it's impossible, like immediately, because that's what fucking the media tells you, and literally every sort of example of communism that capitalism likes to bring up to shit on it, then you are going to just sit there and I love Joe Biden, let's go back to brunch kind of ideas, until someone comes to you and says, you know what, like, it is possible. Like, there's loads of things that you can do to make this happen. And actually, no, it doesn't just happen overnight. And it's because of capitalism and consumerism that you want it to happen overnight. And you have to free yourself from that mindset kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, there's like so many people, just, like average liberal people, that think that what they are doing, like voting blue, whatever, is like, they think that's
direct action. You mean
that's the good fight, right? Like that's
what we call direct action. Thank you, Mildred.
Yeah, doing direct action. Direct action at the poll.
And voting for Bernie is the revolution.
Resisting.
Yeah, exactly. Like they think that was it. Like they think that was it. I mean, that's like. And it's also like the whole thing, like back to the capitalist realism thing, the whole idea of capitalism making space for anti-capitalism. Like people will adopt the consumer identity of the, like the socialist Democrat or something like that, and they'll be convinced that they're doing. It's like you look at like there's all these like little Twitter cults that pop up around Democratic candidates and stuff, and like these people are so convinced that what they are doing is a real fight. Like.
The K
sort of like with Bernie, like or people like sabotaging other candidates and stuff, and they're like, this is the battle, this is the war that we're fighting, you know. And I think that a lot of them, there's a lot of people like that that aren't going to get swayed by, you know, like appeals over the internet or something like that. It's like, it's the community stuff where they see like, oh wait, like those people are actually doing something, but like I thought we were doing the thing, you know. It's kind of like I've seen that a lot in IRL kind of situations, you know, where it's like these people that think that they're doing the most, and then they'll see, you know, like we see like things like Iamata and Putiki and stuff like that, and then just like, wait, like I thought we were the good team, but those guys are doing a lot of good work over there. Yeah.
I campaigned for Jacinda, but that makes me good.
Exactly. You know, stuff like that. Like,
but these people don't like Jacinda. What?
Yeah. What's going on? And I think I think that's, you know, like there's a lot of power there, and like actually just being seen to be doing things, and then people be like, wait, what, you know, like, but you're communists or you're socialists, you're anarchists or whatever, like, you know. So yeah.
I think also like something that scares the shit out of me that I don't see talked about that often is anytime I see like a far right group doing something that is beneficial to the community. Like if they do like a food serve, if a far right group does that, that to me is like
chilling.
Generation
identity giving free food to homeless people.
We were talking about this last time, right?
We were, yeah.
That shit is like, that's what leftists need to be doing. That's
yeah.
There's no argument that's going to convince people
Luna,
better.
Last time on the show, Luna, who obviously you hate because she's an evil tanky and you're a rad lib anarchist.
We're always fighting.
Thank you for mentioning that. I was so tense the whole time. Oh,
I've seen the nasty DMs you have with each other, and you're always sending.
Luna's my best friend because I am also now a tanky, and we are now best friends apparently.
Oh, that's true. You're best friends, yeah.
Yeah, now we're best friends. Anyway, because we hate twins.
Luna was saying that, like, if you want to have a leftist movement that's going anywhere at all, people have to think of you first when they have a problem. And that's it, right? Like, you literally just... I actually prepared a quote from Climate Leviathan, which I think is a really, really, really perfect response to the capitalist realism thing. So, Tim just reminded me by bringing up capitalist realism again. So to refresh, right... In capitalist realism, Mark Fisher highlighted this idea that people find it easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. And loads of people, rather than being like, wow, that's a problem, and changing what they thought about the world, were just like, yup. And this is a really interesting thing, which has to do with climate science as it's going on. One more time, like, this book is just so good about educating you about, like, the state of everything. But bunch of graphs and shit that they're talking through the figures. I won't go into any of that right now. Don't worry. Don't get scared. I know it looked like maths. It's not. Don't worry. The point that they're making is how capitalism has affected academia. In other words, the figure seems to tell us that a temperature increase would cause significant additional stresses on Earth systems and trigger a significant increase in extreme weather would nonetheless have only modest implications for global political economy. The implicit claim, somewhere between assumption and assertion, is that the prevailing liberal capitalist order is more robust than the global environment and will adapt to the coming threat better than the ecosystems upon which it depends. Right? Literally, they're thinking it's easier to, like, they are finding it easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, to the point where they're modeling, right? Basically, again, I'm not going to break it down that much, but like, basically the first bar here is just like past a certain point, that's the tipping point, and then the whole world will just be on fire. And then all of these other bars are like to do with the kind of economic effects, and they're just like, yeah, it'll worsen. And they don't tip over at the tipping point at all, because apparently, you know, because that's the way that, like, capitalism has shaped our imaginative space.
Yeah.
And when you look at it just as a basic, bold claim, like, the idea that the world will just completely fall apart and just be fucking completely on fire and capitalism will be fine is laughable, right?
Yeah.
Like, what? How would that happen? What? Only if Elon Musk takes his billion people to Mars. Like, Matt Iglesias gets his billion Americans, and then Elon Musk puts them on a ship and takes them to Mars. Then you can have your capitalism, right? That's the only possible way. Like, it's so completely ridiculous. And as soon as you realize that, you're realizing, like, actually, we are dealing with a system that is going to fail and die, and the only question is about how well and how effectively people take care of each other during the collapse, right?
Yeah.
What systems people build to take care of one another, right? Fighting in some kind of glorious battle with bombs and bullets, like, is such a minor part of any of this shit. We have covered before, and literally we'll cover more next week with, hey, plug, come and watch next week. We're going to be talking about riot and protest tactics. Like, we've covered it before, and we'll cover again. Like, self-defense is going to be really important when people are building up and trying to protect communities, because capitalism fucking hates that, and it sends its jackbooted thugs to try and kick the heads in of everyone who's trying to give like food to homeless people, unless those people are fascists. But the most of it, the hugest, the biggest part of it is literally just like figuring out how to feed your neighbors if like big Tesco closes, like figuring out how to like keep the house warm if energy prices triple and like there's no formal government anymore, shit like this, you know. Like, that's the work.
This reminds me of something that we talked about last time, and I actually have the link right here about in France, in Marseille, how the workers took over the McDonald's that was about to go out of business, and this is during, you know, the initial COVID kind of thing, and they turned it into a free food bank for the locals. I'm gonna paste the link in chat. It's very, very based. I don't know what the status of it is now, or like how it kind of went out, but it was basically just like the McDonald's was looking at shutting down because they weren't doing so well. You know, COVID happened, people were struggling, and so the guy who had been managing the restaurant for a long time was just like, fuck it, let's just, you know, like, let's just stay here, and it's, you know, like this kind of you know, take it over.
That's the dictatorship of the proletariat shit, right?
Yeah.
Sorry
and
to,
so they
pull it back to.
Well, that's it. I'm off this call. That's it.
Yeah. So they established a
That's
strong
way too
vanguard
far.
party, and they but literally, like, and these were just workers. I think the main dude, the manager, was the one that was occupying it consistently from the start to the end. And you know, he did this, like, he didn't see his family for like months, you know, because he was there with the workers, and they just basically just, you know, started making free food parcels. People from the community were coming through, and it was all people that had a history in the area, you know, running it. It's like, these are the people that live and work there, directly supporting their community, you know, and people were bringing in food from co-ops and everything like that. It was, fucking awesome. And a great thing, because, and this kind of ties into what we're doing, if you like read this article, read other stuff about them, all of the locals were saying, like, we thought, like, we were in a dire situation, and we thought that's just where we were, that's where we were stuck, that's, you know, how it could be. But doing this showed us that there is something better that is possible for us, which I think is, you know, like, this is the kind of antidote to the black pill or whatever, like, people just doing shit in the community and showing, like, yeah, we could just do this, like, you know, like, we could just, one day we could just decide that we're going to occupy the space, you know.
And, that's why I've been talking so much about, like, just learning about reality and getting involved with real stuff, because like, I think that some people might have been coming along to the Red Planet anti-black pill episode and been like, they're going to tell us about cool stuff that's going on, that's going to be inspiring and uplifting. This is definitely a great example of literally that, but that hasn't been our tactic so far, because that's not actually what the Doomer mindset is about. It's about a perception of reality. Like, people, it's like exactly what Mildred said before, like, people think that when they are depressed they can assess reality more. Like, a lot of people have literally heard of depressive realism and hold it to be true when they feel shitty about stuff, and it's literally not true. And once you can see that, like, it's I'm trying to say, it is just about seeing a different reality. It's not about feeling inspired or feeling better. We talk about hopium, we talk about being inspired, and we talk about hope, but it's literally not about your feelings. It's about facts. You literally just have to come to see that capitalism's dead, and it doesn't even realize it yet.
There's I think a real hesitancy on the left to ever present things as though they could get better, simply because the fear, I think, is that other people who are not yet on the left view us as having utopian ideals that sound good but won't work. So if we front load it with how shitty and miserable everything's going to be, then it will sound more realistic to them, and that's going to get them on board. Oh yeah, you're telling me I'm going to have to like work in a dirt field and trudge my whole life? Yes, sign me up. Sign me the fuck up.
Right.
Sounds great.
I think there's also like that becomes a cudgel within leftist spaces, and I've commented on this before, but like it's really easy to be the smartest person in the room if you say things are shit, because everyone knows things are shit. And if you ever say things could be better, or even they are better, it's really easy to just be like, no, they're shit. And everyone's like, whoa, my God, a genius. Holy shit. How did this galaxy-brained individual become so swole in the mind?
Can I also mention that like there's something inherently I think a patriarchal intersection with this doomerism, this whole like everything sucks, the world's gonna burn, bro, like fucking fuck it all.
Yes,
like
there's
having
there's like a
hope
Mad
is
Max
like
fantasy, right?
Like I think the idea
absolutely.
of I think the idea of having hope is kind of is coded effeminate, and like
That's
it's coded.
absolutely
It's
right.
like some sort of like it's on the same scale as like empathy and like apologies and like things like that. And it's considered some sort of a weakness. I don't know how we got to this point. I mean, I know, but like I don't know how we got to this point. This point is like ridiculous, but like it's not. You're not, fellas. Is it gay to have hope? I think it's okay to have hope.
Like,
and also it's okay to be gay. For the record,
that's
it's
a
the
good
same.
thing.
If you don't know,
Exactly.
any extremely not online people, it's very
the toughest pill
gay
for
is
them
good.
is absolutely like the bitterest pill for them is absolutely like the work to be done here is caring for other people and building systems where we like provide for one another and get each other food and housing and shelter and community, because they're all they're obsessed with this idea of like, I'll build my left that's built on strength and killing and blood sports and fighting and this shit, and it's like no, you fucking won't actually, because that's not the left.
Yeah,
I remember I got to back when I used Curious Cat, and this should date the story. When I thought it would be a good idea to just leave an open forum for anonymous people to message me, and I would read the messages. I had this guy who got really mad at me because he said you should get in shape and lose weight for the good of the left. And I said, like, fuck off with this shit. Like, that's such a fucked up attitude. Like, literally never say this shit again. Like, fuck you. And it kicked off this whole discourse about, like, you have to be ready to fight when the revolution comes. Suddenly I got all these people that are, like, telling me that it's my duty to be, like, physically strong to, like, I guess, punch away fascists in their imagined future revolution. And then when you ask them, what have you done? And they're like, oh, I have social anxiety, so I can't join the IWW. Like, like, are you fucking kidding me?
This is
what?
This
if you
is
can sign up
a-
for Amazon Prime, you can join the IWW. That's the level of like
Right.
social
It's like the
anxiety.
same
Just
shit.
finish this thought. Let me just finish this thought.
Please go ahead.
Like, your value to the left does not come from how physically powerful you are and your ability to physically overpower others, because that is the least amount of work that needs to be done.
It's the
That is-
smallest possible part.
It's
There
so
will
hilarious
always
as well,
be
'cause
people
it's like-
willing to fight. We're gonna have a much harder time finding people who are willing to scrub toilets.
But, like,
Absolutely.
it was like when we say like like all these like actual like like revolutionaries, like fucking like when like people knew that fucking Fidel Castro was like was like fucking like a strong individual, a strong leader and stuff. Like when did anyone actually see Fidel knocking anyone out?
Right.
Like he was like walking around town without a bulletproof vest as like a flex on all the fucking assassins and shit like that. But he didn't actually have to physically exercise strength or anything like that.
That's a really good point, Tim, because I was going to talk about this. All this week on my stream, I've been watching information documentaries about Cuba. And one of the ones that I watched...
That's it. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Like it's so weird, right? Like, a white guy in the Imperial Court looking at like, Imperial periphery countries and getting inspiration from it. Weird. Anyway, so like, one of the episodes we watched is about how Cuba has a really good contingent of some of the oldest people in the world. And one of the things that I like specifically remember, and this is why, chat, your politics has to be intersectional, because even in this socialist country, and there's a lot of great stuff about Cuba, but I won't go into straight away. One of the groups that old people can join is still mostly female, and because it's mostly female, and you know, like women are mostly in there, some men don't want to join it. And this group is like, you know, they do Tai Chi in the morning, like they have social networks with each other, they look after each other. It's literally like a mutual aid network for, you know, old people, right? Like it's that, and it's so good for their health. And all these people, every single time a person would show up, I would say to my chat, how old is this person? And everyone was saying like 80, 60, 70. And it turned out that they were like 106 in Cuba. It was crazy. But the average age in Cuba is being brought down by men who won't get involved in these groups because they're too fucking machismo. And the presenter, the presenter literally said, because of the infamous Cuban machismo. And it's like, that is just so absurd. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Die young than go to therapy. And
this is it. Yeah, this is it.
I have a pretty similar story to Mildred's one about an online interaction, which was that like when I finished reading Climate Leviathan, and I was literally like, okay, I've looked through the facts of it now. I understand the situation. Literally, capitalism is collapsing on itself right now. Like not Marx's prediction, this will happen soon. Just literally right now, it's fucked. It's done. Fucking donezo. It's gonna be different shit from now on. And I was like. And I realized this what we've been calling hope, but it isn't hope. It's just literally like a factual assessment. And I went onto Twitter, big mistake. And I was like, communism is coming. Communism is gonna win. Like it's actually inevitable. And someone quote tweeted me instantly, as in within seconds, and said,
"You're telling me they didn't think about it for a while and
said,
decide whether they agree? They just knee-jerk reaction like that on Twitter?"
And they said,
"Doesn't sound right. Seems like a lie."
They said, "I remember when I was this naive."
Oh.
And I've seen that exact phrase like a bunch of times when I've talked about how literally, like, based on the facts, how I understand that this is the case. And I'm just like looking at these people who've been in leftist spaces for 2 weeks, and they're just like, yeah, I was a Nazi last week. I'm an anarcho-communist now. You should vote for Biden. That's what anarchism is. And I remember when I was naive enough to think that capitalism would. And it's like, no, you don't. When was that? Literally, when was that? You being a Nazi and you being a fucking self-proclaimed anarchist who's just like an anarcho-Bidenist, right? When? Show me the time.
That. It was earlier today. I'm just gonna jump up and
hours of my life chasing that dream.
All right. So.
Oh god. Yeah, so I think this is just like is all part of this bigger point that I'm making, that I am trying to get across. Informing yourself on the facts is the thing that gives you hope. And I don't know if hope is actually even a good term for it. Like, you literally find out enough information about this stuff and you find out that is the reality. It's not just about how you feel. I've felt like the worst I've felt in a while this last week for some shit that's going on that I'm not going to get into because this will be archived and I want to, forget about this shit. And I've never once dipped into feeling like capitalism's going to stick around. I've never, because it's not a feeling. It's not a feeling that capitalism's sticking around. Like, I didn't even process this stuff when I was first reading this and other books that helped me to figure this shit out. I didn't even process the absolute totality and inevitability of this truth. I was just reading this stuff and I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. This really challenges ideas and frameworks that I had before. And then I kind of slept on it and hung out for a while. And I had a big moment when I was literally just lying around and I was just like, oh, fuck. Oh, capitalism's going to end. Oh shit! I was just literally like, wait a fucking minute! Like it just hit me. Like all the synthesis of all the facts had been kind of on the back burner, and I was just like, oh fuck,
I don't say this to minimize it, But like when you talk about the creeping authoritarianism that we're seeing all over, like everywhere, like all these states deciding to like crack down on dissent, they're doing that because they're very scared. They see the writing on the wall, and they know
Yes.
that if they don't take a firm hand, then like people are not going to take it anymore.
Yeah,
Like the fact that like
absolutely.
we're in the middle of a situation right now where like thousands of people en masse are just resigning from their jobs and saying, "Fuck this, I won't do it anymore."
Yes.
Like normies.
That is the idea that any socialist could look at that and say like, "Oh, the situation is hopeless." It's like, mother, you're just not paying attention. You're just not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
wanna-
too interested in being an edgy, correct boy who's a
Right.
doomer about everything.
And that's that sort of like instilled hierarchical nature of people, like you were saying. Like, I want to be the smart person. Like, and I also wanted to like compound what Mildred was saying there, because as I said, I've covered the police crimes and sentencing bill on my stream for like quite a while. And one of the things that we've talked about and we've seen is that police are not cool with this. Even police are like, this is absurd. We can't just arrest people like this for stuff like this. It's gonna, because police. Here's the thing, right? Chat. Everybody knows ACAB, right? You know, we all know how fucked up police are.
All cops are bad for those who don't.
Police know
Bastards.
that the things that they do is sketchy as fuck.
Assigned
Like,
cop at birth.
they know that, like, they know that the things that they do are sketch. They know that the things that they do, like, if they push it too far, then there'll be like a scandal and riots and stuff like that, right? At this point where they are bringing in this bill to have coppers be like, yeah, don't know about this one, chief, that is a great sign. That is a fantastic sign, despite the horrific nature of these bills. The fact that cops know that they cannot enforce this absurd, dystopian fascist bill is great hopium. Like, we should be filled with hopium because of that.
I okay, two things. I want to back up exactly what you were saying. Like, specifically some of the cops I've seen saying we don't want this powers are in the London Metropolitan Police, literally the oldest modern police force in the world, and by many standards, one of the shittiest, most corrupt, most like bastardy ones.
Yeah.
And they're saying it. Second thing, this is part of like predicting like what's coming and what's going to happen. I've been saying for a while, the foot soldiers of capital, police, right? Will themselves start fucking walking off the job when they encounter the inevitable contradiction that literally, like, they think they're there to protect the community and keep people safe and this shit, and increasingly the whole of their job is just to go and smash up like bottled water stands during a heat wave so homeless people can't have them for free. Literally, those cops will walk the fuck off the job. We should have a conversation, and again, next week, tune in, right, about the cops who replace those cops will be the people who want to do that shit and who are evil,
actually like
fascists.
Explicitly Nazis, like literal.
Right. Rather than like all cops are bad because of system, like
they're actually like bad people too.
All of the ones who have any kind of
like
conscience have quit
They
now,
like
and
they
like
like swastika tattoos.
purely just the guys who were already in a street militia, like that. Sure, we should have that conversation, but like, police will be quitting as well. Like, as well as this anti-work shit we're seeing, people refusing to go into work. Increasingly, people are going to be refusing to work as cops either.
Yeah, no one's going to want to do it.
Just in general, even if something is always bad, that doesn't make all instances of it equally bad. You know,
true.
Right.
The things can always just because something can't help you doesn't mean it can't hurt you more.
Yeah, we've talked to this through with landlords, for example, a whole bunch of times. It's like there are certainly disabled people who own a property who get passive income from it, and that's, you know, like, fine, fucking good for them. I would rather they live in a society where all their needs are met. And so aren't exploiting someone for that money. Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be unreasonable to say, well, I think the ethical thing here for you to do is starve to death.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's
exactly. Yeah. Like, you know, I've lived on the dole. Like, I wouldn't want literally anyone to go through the absurd soul crushing bureaucracy of like having to apply for that shit in a system that literally wants to keep as much of it away from people as possible. Yeah, I just think like this is I'm always trying to tie this back to long-term vision, right? And what we are gonna see more and more of, and what we've already been describing on the show, right? So we've already been talking about how we will see people putting up more extreme resistances. We will see people building dual power, and it's less about like this power comes up and the other you have to overthrow the other, and it's way more about like the state is crumbling. Like we can all see there are these like the global supply chain is collapsing right now. So you need to be able to feed your neighbors. And if you call that some kind of communism or anarchism, or like, you can do that and you can organize along those lines. But the important thing is that you feed each other. But like this thing about the cops, I just wanted to say that like how that fits into this is people will be trying to feed and protect the like growing camps of homeless people as like masses of people are being evicted right now. And then the cops will find that more and more of just their entire job is to try and stop people protecting and feeding homeless people. And it's just like, you can't reconcile that with being a human being.
I want to quickly interject and say that if you want to learn more about ACAB, aka All Cops Are Bad, I saw a few of you with questions. This stream is not going to walk you through these ideas. This stream is a little bit more of like advanced kind of, we assume that you have certain building blocks in place and we go build upon those. But if you want to learn more, first of all of us are content creators, everyone on this panel. Some of us are streamers, some of us are like more YouTubers. Some of us do like a smattering of both. Any of us can talk to you about this topic, but in my chat forever, if you do !ACAB, there's actually Thought Slime's video pops up because that's the go-to video I recommend to people. Yeah. It's a lot of you have said that this is the thing that helped to like make it click for you. And so I was like, okay, yeah, we watched it on stream. It was great. It's very, it's extremely salient to, I would imagine people that are new to the idea. So !ACAB, it's always in my chat, even when I'm offline, it's always accessible to you. But you know what, just subscribe to Thought Time while you're at it. So you always have that handy. Doesn't hurt.
Just one small addendum on that video.
Okay.
There's one part of it that I think is if I were making it now, I would do differently, where I talk about what I view the alternatives to policing as. And I think that what I suggested was just kind of not necessarily wrong, but very vague and not really well thought out. I would say there are definitely people you can read that have more fleshed out views on that. The Abolition of Prison, Towards a World Without Police is a book you can read.
Cool. Yeah. It's always weird when you're a YouTuber. Like as a streamer, my stuff gets like, you know, it just kind of fizzles out and it's just, I'm always making new content every day. And it's a little bit easier to like evolve your views over time. But as a YouTuber, and I've noticed this once I've started a YouTube channel to try to like put my stream stuff on there and kind of edit it a bit. I'm noticing that like I've said some things and I'm like, should I like delete this video? Like it's not like super wrong, but it's not reflects my views. I think a lot of us are feeling that, and it's a lot. People in the chat have the luxury of like pretending they've never said these things or thought these things before, but like we are extraordinarily like aware of it, and it just I haven't figured this part out yet. I haven't figured it out.
Nicole,
one thing I have learned
to get better. No one's allowed to
yeah, that's true.
You know.
One strategy I've learned for this is, and in a way it is sort of a cowardly strategy, but to remind your audience that you don't necessarily know better than they do. And if something you're saying sounds like it triggers your bullshit alarm and you think like, that doesn't sound right, follow that feeling. Look into, think that through. Cause what I don't want to do, and what to some degree is kind of inevitable about what I do, but what I really try and avoid is to enforce bad, wrong ideas. I've done many times in the past. I just said something off the cuff because I wasn't like educated enough about it. And now that's just how people think about it. And so you kind of have to continuously remind your audience, even though they know, everybody's smart enough to know you shouldn't just listen to some asshole on YouTube. They know it intellectually. But if you don't remind them, hey, like, just keep in mind, if that sounds wrong to you, investigate that. you know.
The kicker with that is that humility is so hard to find in a content creator that by being humble, you are now affording yourself more credibility. Like, oh, well, they're so humble. They're so self-aware. So you can trust them. At least that's the feeling that like I know some people have. I certainly have it. If I see you saying this, I'm like, well, I can trust Thoughtsime then. I can definitely.
I hope at least you can trust that I believe what I say because I'm humble.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that you don't trust. I hope that no one trusts me to be their like a better thinker or someone who's more capable of synthesizing the truth than them.
I will also say,
there's like an instinct. Oh,
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's like an instinct amongst content creators, like streamers and YouTubers or whatever, to like when criticized, to like relitigate their position by saying like, you know, like they'll be like, well, what I actually meant was this or that or blah 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 blah. And we saw this like, you know, with like when everyone wanted to have a statement about like land back and all that kind of shit, you know. It's like people would say one thing, they'd make a video, they'd make a statement or whatever like that. And then when people would call them out on it, they'd be like, oh yeah, well, you know, this is what I actually meant. It's just that you didn't understand it correctly or something like that, you know? And it's like this really frustrating thing where it's like, all it takes is just to say like, oh, hey, actually, maybe I didn't get it. Maybe I'm better equipped now to talk about it. Or maybe there's these other people you should, you know, like other people should check out that are more equipped to talk about the subject or something like that, you know?
But then you can't enforce the social hierarchy of you being better than everyone else.
Yeah. Then you project weakness.
Yeah, that's undermining your marketing strategy for some people.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother topic, and we should. So, but wait, I want to thank. Now we have a pause because last time I never thanked anyone for any subs or anything the entire time.
Right,
so I'm gonna, you know what? Let's try it now. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let's see here. Tail 2 Rabbit. Thank you so much for the 200 bits. Crying for lobster exclusion. See, like that probably made sense at the time. That was 2 hours ago. I probably made perfect sense. And okay, so thank you for the 200 bits. And B-Rat, thanks for gifting a sub to Tail of 2 Rabbit and to Red Orchid 99. Thank you. 10 Dead Bunnies, thank you for the 5 months. Hi chat, hi bunny, hi Red Planet folks. Hi. And Useless, thanks for the 400 bits. Nodders. I hate Nodders is there's certain emotes that make me like have to react. Nodders is one of them, and I'm trying my best to like I'm wearing this, so I'm very professional today, but I'm trying not to do this. Whenever I see Nodders, it's so hard not to. Okay.
You did it anyway.
Yeah. And Nimi R Red Hell. Thank you for the $9.99. This is Guess I'll Go Read Climb a Leviathan. Oh, hell yeah. Nice. And Finvar, thank you for the 5 subs. Thank you.
For this discourse, silly.
Why is my
Thank you.
I turned off my text. I turned off all my alerts and it's still making noises. Very odd. Thank you, Finvar. Thank you so much for the 5 subs. And Kitty's playing. Thanks for the 200 bits. Thank you for all this discourse. I love you. It's the L word, y'all.
I can't believe it.
What do I say back? Do I say thank you or do I say it back?
I've got commitment issues, so I can't.
I know you love me.
Yeah. I
know. There. That was cool. That was cool of me. Thank you so much. And Highway, thank you for the 14 months. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think we're back.
I put it in chat, but End of Policing by Alex Vital as well. Just an incredibly thorough book if you want to understand like everything fucked about the police. Just really, really good.
Oh, and the Tale of 2 Rabbit thing, by the way, about the lobsters not being represented, that was when we were talking about Nazi dolphins.
And we all know there wouldn't be Nazi dolphins. That's why, there wouldn't be Nazi dolphins, and that's why Posadism is the correct perspective.
I wanted to say one more example. This isn't a book recommendation to do with the topic today. I actually haven't started the book even. I'm just trying to talk about an example of what I mean when I say that I deal with like fear of things by educating myself about the things. I found out there's an anarchist bookshop near me, and I went to it the other day, and I picked up this copy of Prison, A Survival Guide, because all those horrifying bills that we were talking about earlier, right? A huge focus of it is that like anyone who's trying to make the world a better place is going straight the fuck to jail in the UK. And that obviously as a trans woman terrifies the shit out of me. But Sarah Jane Baker, a very prolific and prominent trans activist who has been, wait, what's that?
You're good.
Okay. It's fine. This is right,
cool.
Because Mildred
right,
turned, yeah.
We're good.
Fantastic. There's like a whole section about being trans in prison in the book, as well as like the rest of the book just being about what the experience of modern prisons is actually like. And like, yeah, I got that. I haven't read it yet. Like I said, I'm not necessarily recommending the book because I haven't read it yet, but and it's not to do with today's topic either. It's just what I'm saying, that like when you're worried about shit, you know, if you want to like confront that fear, educate yourself on the thing you're afraid of. Don't just do nothing, right? And certainly don't just like watch a bunch of people get like really mad at each other over hypotheticals online. Like that's definitely not the solution.
So maybe we should turn to chat and let me say this really quick, and then DJ Meal, I want you to say your thing. But maybe we should turn to chat and see, since we have about less than an hour left in the stream, and we have to spend some time talking about homework and things like that. Chat, homework, the word that makes everyone just feel like waves of fear in them. At least I do. Maybe we should ask chat if chat has particular questions about the black pill, killing the black pill, because we've been talking about all sorts of things today. We've touched on a bunch of topics. It's hard to just straight up give you like a Jordan Peterson speech about like cleaning your room and this is how you get rid of it or something. So, but I think we've been touching on a lot of different things. And then, so let us know if you have questions. And if you don't have any questions, don't try to come up with one because you want attention. All right, don't pull a me. Don't do that. Anyways, go ahead, DJ Meal.
Yeah, I actually forgot what I was going to say.
Damn it.
Because I was wanting to. I love ADHD. I was wanting to talk. I was wanting to ask people because I thought we were going to do this. We were going to talk about examples of how we've undoom pilled ourselves.
Yeah.
Like you were talking, Sophie, about like how you were, you know, learning about things that you're afraid of and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great way to tackle this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like. So, you know, there's a bunch of things that have undoom pilled me recently. One of them was like literally just speaking to Sophie. So that's a great start. You could go subscribe to Sophie from Mars on YouTube. I heard another way you could do it is you could go to Thought Slime's channel and there's like another, right. Yeah. There's like a link at the bottom. So basically, anyway, one of the ways, like I said, I was looking at Cuba this week, and Cuba has really, I actually said last week when Luna was here, because when you hear about socialism succeeding in other countries, that is actually so hopeful. Like it really does fill you with hope, because, and especially Cuba, there's a lot. If you want to talk about one country in the entire world that is fucking so equipped to beat the doom pill, it's Cuba. So I've been watching a series this week called The War on Cuba, and last week as well. The War on Cuba is great. It talks about everything about the embargo. It talks about everything about the ways in which Cuban people collectively look after each other and collectively like have so much more democracy than in any fucking country in the West. And it's absurd when you hear these arguments of like, oh, Cuba is a dictatorship. It's an authoritarian communist dictatorship. They have a Havana syndrome room where they put you in a room and then you have a brain disease. Like, it's just absurd when you see things from like the Cuban perspective. One of the biggest arguments that you hear about from sort of libs and stuff like that is like, oh, well, in a post-capitalism world, how do you incentivize people to do anything, right? Like what happens when you remove the profit incentive? And one of the most incredible, yes, it is the Oliver Stone one, Unelectable Airwaves. Danny Glover and Oliver Stone both worked on this documentary. One of the most beautiful moments I saw from this, it is on YouTube, yeah, it's on YouTube. One of the most beautiful moments I saw from this series was a doctor. And they were interviewing a doctor, the presenter, and she was saying, why are you a doctor? Like, what made you want to become a doctor for Cuba? You got to go on these brigades and go to like different countries and help out there where like they don't have socialized healthcare and stuff like that. Like, what made you want to do it? And the guy just said, I wanted to feel like I saved a life. Like nothing like I studied a doctor because I wanted to make a bunch of money. You know, nothing like I wanted, and so you might think like, oh. So people in the chat are probably thinking, yeah, well, he's just saying that because doctors say that, right? You know,
but I mean the profit motive.
It's
no, but it must be
the profit motive, though. But the profit motive.
Oh, hang on. The life he saved, he owns them now, right? They're like a indentured.
Surprisingly not. And then later on, the even more base than that was they interviewed this guy's daughter. And the guy's daughter said, they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? She goes, I want to be a doctor like my dad. He inspires me because he's so selfless. Nothing about like, oh my God, like it's you know what I mean? It's a like, because the kids normally when they say doctor, like they don't really have a reason. Do you know what I mean? They say like, oh, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman, I want to be whatever. Like I want to be like my dad because he's so selfless.
Now contrast that with the story that's been trending on Twitter, which is the girl. It's inspirational. The girl who already has multi-million dollars because she runs. She as a 10-year-old runs 2 businesses. Like that's our inspirational story. It's like you can be an exploiter, and from day one, and like it just takes a really good idea and like gusto, but also a small loan for your parents and also a PR company that she runs and blah blah blah. Like
like her parents are scumbags as well. It's like her dad has been like jailed for fraud and all this other shit.
That's our version of inspirational. Contrasting with what you said, DJ.
Jamie, you just say her parents are scumbags as well. As
10-year-old? I mean, it's like I didn't want to break out the skull calipers too soon, but
I love the idea. Though I love the idea of capitalist media publishing an article that's just like, hey, the people who we constantly valorize, a 10-year-old could do that job.
That is the flip side of things. There's always a flip side to any of these stories.
The whole system that we have here, where the people who are the best and succeed the most rise to the top. A 10-year-old could do that.
Well, that's
well, like for everyone in this room, you think about like the YouTube channels that are like young kids who open toys and play with them.
Oh yeah.
And just the thought, the like skin crawling horror of like taking the act of a child playing with a toy and saying like we need to find a way to profit from this is just like there's something
the joy
about
of
it
a
that
child
is
is now like a profit motive. Like
I'm doing like a Magic the Gathering thing this year. I've got a sponsorship from Wizards of the Coast. I'm gonna do this video where I'm like opening packets in like my boobiest outfit, and I know nothing about like Magic the Gathering at all, and I'm just gonna be like, oh my God, I love the art. And I already know it's going to get more views than anything else on my channel has ever had.
Is this Slytherin? This is Slytherin, right?
Yeah, that's yes.
Which one's a bingo?
So
I just said,
no, please go ahead. I'm about to move on to a question that someone had, so please go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. I was just gonna say, who was it? Super obnoxious all caps name said, hearing about how many socialist movements sprout up naturally and end up succeeding is incredibly motivating, and it's something that I never recognized before. And honestly, just like as a good like anti-black pill thing, looking at all these all these movements that pop up, a really good a good book, which is like a compilation of essays for that, is called Revolutionary Optimism, Western Nihilism by Andrei Vicek, who is a Russian author that grew up in America, will move to America when young, and is very like, it's really, really good. There's like some stuff in it that is kind of like, like it's not perfect. Same with like, capitalist realism or whatever. But it is really good at kind of and it is talking about like, the Western nihilism is the black pill sort of thing, and the optimism that comes from these movements in the imperial periphery and everything, that are like literally like just like actually doing shit, actually getting out there and just like, they're like, we don't have time to kind of worry about like, like all this like Twitter fucking doomerism or whatever like that. Like we're actually busy like liberating our country sort of thing, which I think is extremely base and super, super motivating.
I don't mean to, sorry, I keep interrupting people because the timing is off with
that's
fine. What a luxury it is to feel hopeless. What when people like when Bad Bunny was saying like, oh, you had a response that was really good, I was surprised that that's the one that you like, because my typical response is like, things are too bad to be hopeless.
I like that.
That's great.
It's kind of like,
that's great.
So what you mean by that is like, basically if I'm say stranded on a desert island or desert, I never know which one, and there's I don't have any food, any water, whatever, and I have to like make it all, I don't have the luxury of sitting back and be like, oh,
it's too hard.
I'll never be able to get food.
If you take a minute,
you
like
have
literally
to do
a minute to go, oh fuck, this is really hard. That's a minute you are closer to dying of thirst.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
only
Yeah, it's like there's this like
that-
middle ground where it's like if things suck, but you have the ability to just cruise. You know?
Yeah,
Right.
but that's
And
literally
if
like
you were
that's why I
on-
was gonna say like this ties into what Mule was saying about Cuba, what I was saying about like looking at climate change, what Tim was just saying, and what Mildred just said. Like literally, like it is a Western phenomenon of leftists going, everything's fucked. There's nothing we can do. My girlfriend
Yeah.
Natalie has a fantastic line on this, which is like, it's comforting. It's comforting to imagine we're all gonna die because that means that there's nothing we can do and therefore nothing you have to do. When the reality is, loads of people are dying right now, and you could do shit to stop that now. And I know that, like, as I'm describing that, I'm actively taking some people's hope like away, because some people are like recoiling from that idea and they're like, fuck no. But I've already, we've already said, like, the reality of the shit, the fact of the matter is capitalism has failed, and some form of communism is coming. And like, people are independently invent this shit because it is just caring for one another, and it is truly an imperial core privileged position to just be like, yeah, it's fucked. There's nothing we can do whatsoever.
Well,
It's
because
such
we
a
can
privileged
rely
position.
on climate Leviathan.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Literally,
Yeah.
like, we could sit comfortably inside this shit while it's wrecking up everyone else's lives and killing just billions of people,
Mhm.
and be untouched, but be like relatively untouched by it. Especially just the more you conform into that society, literally.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next question. Lit Lisa Simpson asked, there's a huge problem with the IRL organizing where the bright, shiny new folks just get burned out real fast because there's so much work. How can local organizers do things that restore people's capacity instead of taking it? I feel like the black pill and burnout are associated.
Yeah, they totally are, right? Because, it's capitalism, demands that we have an actual job in it. We can't just like all
Speak for
quit
yourself,
our
buddy.
jobs. We can't just like quit. It would be great, and actually a lot would get done for socialism if we all did quit our jobs, but obviously it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like some people's direct capability to do so, and most people who volunteer
Well, that's
still
why we're
have to quit.
organizing to create the groundwork so people can
Exactly.
Free people,
jobs
free people.
and not
This
feel
is-
like they can't. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a symptom of the current situation, right? And things will improve the more and more organizing, the more and more people who get involved in organizing and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, I don't know, yeah, it's not an invalid question, it's a perfectly valid question, but it is like, yeah, like the more and more the more and more people get involved, and the more people start to take ideas from like we've said before, like if this is something that you think is good, copy us and do it yourself. The more and more people do that, the more and more changes we're going to see in people organizing, the more and more people are going to be doing it. So there's going to be less work for people to do, and that's going to be easier to handle.
The way I think about this is like, we were all born into white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, so on and so forth. None of us were like agreed to it. We just were surrounded by it, and so we felt like it was just the thing that you do. This is evident by whenever you ask anyone to like defend the systems of oppression that they think they're for, they fall apart, because it's extremely easy to see them just and that's why they always end up blaming the Jews or something. Like, I don't know. Like they run to these scapegoats, because if you actually do like start to examine the threads, you realize very quickly how very like ridiculous this entirety of the situation is.
Yes.
Similarly, the way that we are all kind of like pilled by default by these systems because we were born into them, not because we agreed to them. I feel the same way about any sort of movement toward communism. Like, and this is a little bit of a side note, but it's also my I beg and plead for you all to stop focusing all your energy on trying to de-radicalize people. This individual case by case, I just can like debate them or argue with them, and then they'll finally see what my point is. Like, I think that there is some potential, sometimes some good comes of it, but largely I think it's a big time sink, because we were never convinced individually, case by case, that we agreed to capitalism or patriarchy or white supremacy or any of these systems. We were just if they just were there, we arrived with them, and then we went, yeah, no, I'm gonna rationalize this like our human brain does. So I forget exactly what you said, DJ Meal, to make me think of this, but is basically along the lines of the environments around you will help to pill people. And like the more and more people are, and I know Sophie can speak into this like fantastically about how the right works, how they always want to be in the in group. They always want to LARP that they're like somehow fighting against some sort of big Goliath, but they do always want to remain the in group, the silent majority, if you will. So I just want to say that briefly, that if people are feeling like intimidated by any of these ideas, if they feel like, oh, how do I help this person with the black pill and so on and so forth, the collective movement will be, in my opinion, extraordinarily effective, because it has been in that it made us all, like, gave us all brainworms without our consents, and we undid that to be here today to talk about it. It's logical to assume that the same will occur if we keep pushing and keep fighting for what we're fighting for.
I think about this a lot, but there's a famous cartoon of a climate panel of a bunch of scientists looking at global warming data. And one of them turns to the other and says, well, what if this is all a big hoax and we make everything better for nothing?
I remember that. I remember. Yeah, I've
that's
seen
what I
so
think
many
about
variations
when people are like,
mm-hmm.
when people are like, oh, well, capitalism is undefeatable. There's nothing we can do to turn it around. It's like, yeah, okay, but like you could go out and give like a homeless person a sandwich, you know?
Yeah,
what if you makes the world a better, you know? And he's not going to like slap it out of your hand and say, "Don't you understand that you'll never be in control of the means of production?"
So I have two things. The first one is my girlfriend's reply to the question that was asked, which I saw in chat.
I was just going to point that out because I was like, I just wanted to say almost exactly the same thing.
Well,
and then
I wanted to highlight it because like I'm a wife guy for her and she's a wife guy for me. That's how lesbianism works. Is you're both wife guys for each other and you're also the wife.
It's a little hypocritical, cool. But that's fine.
It's a cool system. She said, extremely true. I think it's really important for people to feel like they can dip out when they feel exhausted and know that they can come back without any embarrassment. Also having lots of social incentive around the work. I think it's also important to plan what actions are going to be empowering versus draining in the organizing. Like at LRU, that's London Renters Union, which is where when that's been involved with a lot of stuff, we're always thinking, is this going to energize people? How is it going to build the union, etc., etc.? All really big, persistent challenges that need to, I think it was cut off, but need to be, constantly thought about. And yeah, I'd like to speak a little bit more about her experience. Like Nat has struggles with depression. Nat has ADHD, and like she burns out on shit really, really quickly, especially if it's a repetitive task that she's stuck on in the long term, and that's just the job she's constantly doing. Like, and that applies to even the stuff she cares massively about, like London Renters Union. And so she has had to like dip in, and then she gets burned out, and she has to not be in it for a while and dip back in and do more stuff. And yeah, it's okay for people to do that, and they need to know that it's okay to do that. And I think so. First, this is all still part of my first point. I'm very sorry. I'll try and be quick on both points. But firstly, London Renters Union works as a mutual solidarity organization, or no, a member solidarity organization. And what that means is that it's completely like an almost entirely acephalous organization where everyone is trained on everything when they enter. So anybody can do anything and everybody can train any new member all the time, which is really fucking cool and is a great way to enable the organization to grow as like maybe not as fast as possible, but like in the most sustainable and powerful way possible. And anybody who needs to like dip out knows that everybody else in the organization has exactly as much training as them, and so can definitely take over anything that they were going to do, and they're not letting anybody down, and it's okay.
Delm said in the chat something about we got to rely on organizing, not just mobilizing the same activists all the time. The more we delegate and diffuse the power, the more collective capacity we have. That's kind of the same thing, right? It's like instead of burning out these few people or whatever like that, if everybody is trained, everyone, and you organize in a way that, you know, allows people to kind of like step in and out and take over these different positions which they're trained to do, then yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that's like that really addresses.
Yeah, Dalmatian has
Yeah,
said
carry on anyway. Yeah.
this is called being bus proof. If any one person is hit by a bus, the organizing campaign won't disappear. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's why we encourage everyone to copy
my-
our format, by the way. Everyone do it.
Absolutely.
Everyone do
Shout
what we're
out to
doing
EJ.
on your stream. Make this the new norm on Twitch. So it's like it's not like this is the one place and the only people that do it. Everyone do it.
Shout out to EJ and Luna. We already have one copy. We've got people doing a weekly panel where they're discussing shit with different guests already.
Did they just start that? Is that new? That's so cool.
I watched the first one.
Yeah,
It was good. It was good.
Oh yeah, nice.
Second point. I've been spending the last year interviewing organizers and activists from around the world about what they do and how you can do it as well. It's called Organizing Interviews, and it's going to be on my channel. Go check that out if you want to see stuff you can get involved with. Blah blah blah. I'm so great. But a question I ask every single interviewee is, because I know my audience care about accessibility, and these exact questions is, how does your org like cater to people who are disabled, who are stuck in the house, who have a full-time job or have kids, right? They have constraints on their capacity in various ways. And I've had a bunch of different interesting answers. I've definitely had some answers that were a little bit more like, right? They were a bit more like, we have to acknowledge that people who have free time and capacity are going to be the ones involved with activism. And that is a valid answer. Like, that is a partially valid answer. Like, to some degree, the people who are going to be full-time activists and organizers aren't up to anything else, right? And that does intersect with societal privileges. Okay. But other people like have given really rich and complex and fantastic answers about how their organization has deliberately tackled the challenges of accessibility. And I'm not going to go into it now because we do have limited time, but please watch my series when it starts coming out, because like people have really good answers about exactly this topic, about how they have recognized that people need this kind of accessibility, especially under the pandemic. In some ways, it's been a blessing interviewing people at this exact time, because loads of them have an answer that's like, we used to do this shit, but now we can't meet in person, so we changed to this, and now more people are involved because people who otherwise wouldn't be able to come can just turn into a
touching
Zoom,
grass is hard for some of us. It's just exhausting. We don't have the time. It's just so much more accessible virtually.
Yeah, literally.
Clothes.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna start airing those from Friday. So that's check those on my channel.
Very cool.
Also, just one small thing on that as well. If you're looking for a way to be of to maximize your usefulness to effort ratio to any organization, learn first aid or learn CPR. People that can do those things and has trouble finding them, and the people that are trained in them typically have a lot of other shit to do. So you just being there and knowing that work off of a lot of people's plates.
Serious tip.
Co-sign that, and there's an additional one. If you can drive, you are already a god to many activist organizations. People who can drive, who can just get this batch of stuff from here to there, or transport these people to the action, or literally like people who can drive, incredibly useful.
It's so funny because
it's actually like one of the things that when you learn about intelligence and surveillance, one of the things they look out for in undercover cops is people who have cars, because like they're so rare and such an asset to orgs that cops know that if they show up and they're like, I can drive, everyone will love them. So also work on proving that you're not a cop. I
think we got an episode coming up with is that the one we're going to do with Anansi's library, about talking about like kind of protest riot kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's going to be next week.
I'm really excited for that one. That's going to be so cool
about that as well, especially about like police infiltration and stuff. But we'll save that for
we'll talk about police infiltration. We may talk about it next week. We'll definitely also talk about it with Tia, who used to be in naval intelligence and so has is an incredible asset in terms of telling us about like infosec and opsec.
Nice.
Probably talk about police infiltration more in that episode.
Rob says that everyone should get a "not a cop" shirt, so there's no confusion.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
I'll give you the other tips. I mean, what the other things people look out for in potential undercover cops is like no backstory. Like they don't seem to come from anywhere. No one's ever met their family, and their job takes them away for long periods of a time. So if you can like you know, if you do come from somewhere and you can be like, hey, here's my sister, and like, you know,
But
if you
also-
are concerned about proving you're not a cop.
But also, that being said, if somebody is asking a lot of those questions, that's also a red flag. If someone's like, what other orgs do you work for? Where do you come from? What's going on?
That's true.
That's,
do take a minute to be like, is this person a cop?
Now people in the chat are like, wow, I'm actually a cop this whole time. No way.
Oh shit! Oh no!
We're all
Oh,
cops. What the
no.
hell? I love that you're talking about the value of like driving people and CPR, because a lot of people have this idea of like the revolution's gonna be, let's go, and it's just like, no, can you get into your Prius? Can you drive us a few blocks? That's the thing. We need you to do things that are not as like sexy as you think it. Like this fetishization of like revolution is this one day that everyone just like rises up spontaneously and just violent. Like it just, that's not actually what it is. But for some reason, that's like the only idea that we're given, and we have to like force another idea into place. That's not how it works, chat. It's not how it works.
A weird side effect of like the modern atomization we find ourselves in is Robert Evans, who's worked as a conflict journalist, has a fantastic line on what like modern civil war looks like, because we expect modern like civil wars to be about like regions and there's this side and this side, and his line is like in a modern civil war, like the buses still run. It's just all their windows have been blown out by a bomb, and so they're all just like plasterboard instead. Like all the services are still there. You'll still go and queue at the post office and all of this stuff. You just could be killed in an insurgent attack at any moment. Like that's what this kind of unrest looks like in our time.
Mildred was going to say something. You go ahead.
Yeah. In terms of just that idea that like what a revolution is going to be is that like a bunch of people are going to storm into the White House and take control of the government, and then we'll all get together and hash out how to do things later. It's like, no, if you want there to be a revolution, you have to create the conditions where a revolution is a positive development.
Yes.
And that means that because like I like it like you can, the people who end up with power might not be the people you want, right? If you want to have a successful revolution, you need to create the conditions where a revolution is kind of redundant first. Like that's
you want to be in a position
like
where people
thing,
walking
right?
into the White House is essentially just a symbolic gesture.
Yeah. This is, I mean, we were talking about this last time with the whole thing about that January 6th thing, how it's like, they didn't build dual power, they didn't have any plan or anything, so they just went in there and they milled around for a bit and then they went home, and it's like, this is you know, this is what happens when you don't you don't actually have a long-term plan, you don't have the people in place, you haven't done any organizing or whatever. It's just this really kind of like, you know.
No,
like
Tim,
just...
the revolution is when I take a shit in Nancy Pelosi's office. That is the revolution.
And the real revolution is when you organize a general strike on Reddit by making some flyers.
Yeah, we've had about the Reddit general strike a few times now.
As we saw in the UK this week, it's when about 20 drunk men dress up as Boris Johnson and get drunk outside Downing Street. That's when the revolution is.
It was so fucking cringe.
I feel bad for people.
So brave.
The people in the chat that aren't extremely online or extremely involved, and we're making a lot of references that a lot of you might not understand. Don't worry about it. It's some of us are honestly, God bless you for not knowing what we're talking about if you don't know. I envy you for not knowing the vile shit that we have seen. God bless your heart. You're in the, but if you do know what we're talking about, then you know what we're talking about. So don't worry about it if you don't.
Do we have more questions in chat?
Yeah, there's a few questions.
Yeah.
There is a question from Crystal Cap, which I'm not sure. I think we kind of touched on it. It was basically, do you find when you talk to libs that are moving left, are they blackpilling? And do you have any tips on radicalizing libs that isn't just doomering about capitalism failing them? I actually want to make a note of saying that I don't think personally that going up to every lib and radicalizing them is a solution to anything. I mean, like, I think that demonstrations, especially at this point in history, time, whatever, when we see that people are by the material conditions and just them noticing how the voting blue does not count for anything, and how the government really doesn't care if they live or die, they only care if they go to work. I feel like that will serve as a a point of radicalization, but then after that you have to fill in the blanks for them. This is my feeling. That's why I think it's an extraordinarily inefficient and honestly kind of counterproductive. Like, it actually harms the movement, in my opinion, if like we focus all our energy on like persuading every single lib we know. I think it's more of
like individually.
I just don't feel like it's, I don't know, that's my personal take. So I think that radicalization will, I mean, how was any of us radicalized? A lot of us think it was like one event, but it wasn't. It was like, it was a series of, we talk about this all the time because every day I talk about how I used to be like a chud, and the things that, you know, how I think I got to where I am now, and also how it's never one thing. It's never one conversation. So thinking that it will be is kind of missing the point. And I think you're kind of it's just a waste of time. And honestly, kind of, it might just give them a bad taste in their mouth at any event, you know, about what we're doing. So I think meeting people, like when I say stuff like meeting people where they are, but what I mean is, if someone's evicted, if they're a lib, you know, do a communism and help them. If somebody is needing food, do a communism and help them. I think that that's not only more effective personally and doesn't require people to be like unblack-pilled, right? I also, because they're already being helped, they're already seeing that this is a thing that is demonstrably good. But it also like is a good thing. Like, instead, it's like a really, it's who cares about the end goal of communism? In the moment that you're doing this, positive things are happening, and that in and of itself is valuable. So that's my weird roundabout way of answering that question. And I don't think we should focus too much time on it, but yeah.
I would just like reiterate what I said before, like Common Humanity Collective's answer, which you already just reiterated it as well. It's just literally like the doing that stuff radicalizes people. Like, just go and do the stuff. I did want to say something which I forgot to say before, which was like, while yes, we definitely shouldn't waste our time on like a movement of going to radicalize people and look, I made all these people leftists, therefore I'm the best leftist. Look how many people I've saved from being a chud.
Have you heard the good news?
If you really think about it,
right? But no, let me counter and actually talk about have you heard the good news for a second. Like stuff we were talking about earlier. If there is someone who you do want to get across good ideas to, who they're in your life and they listen to you and they're teetering on the edge, and like that, you know, if that conversation's going to happen anyway, don't just talk about how fucked things are.
Yes.
Talk about how fucked things are and how leftism has answers, and how there are things we can do to help people. That's what I'm like. That's what I mean by the good news. Like, literally, like the reason that like wingnut Bible bashers are like, the good news is like Jesus is gonna save your soul. Like, in a similar way, literally just be like, don't just talk about how fucked things are. Absolutely, that's great for getting them to realize that you see reality like they see it, and then go, so let's feed people. So let's do this stuff. There are steps we can take that are good here.
Go ahead, Mildred.
I also
battles in it.
feel this may be anathema to our mission statement here, but I think there is an element of, with libs specifically, and when I say libs, I mean like, you know, center left, like American libs, that type of person, not just people in America, but like how Americans use that word. With them, you do have to black pill them a little bit. You kind of have to like show them like, hey, no, I don't think everything's fucked, but your solutions will never work, and here's why.
Yeah. It's
your solutions specifically are hopeless.
Redo it's really it's a whole
Like, infinite growth is unsustainable, and how can you support that?
So are you saying that yelling out the N-word is not the strategy?
Huh?
Wait,
what?
I thought it was tactical. Like, what is it? Is that
Okay,
not
I
a
was
good
confused
tactic?
for a moment. Okay.
To be fair, I haven't tried it.
Okay.
Oh, well, don't.
Wow.
Don't.
I'm gonna read
like
UV
that.
Pod's comment really quickly. They said an IWW guy I knew once said that you shouldn't bother trying to radicalize people. Just get them working on a goal that or task that's in their interest, and thus likely a leftist one, and capital will radicalize them for you when it pushes back. It's kind of, that goes hand in hand a little bit with what I was saying before. It's like, how do we get pilled initially that capitalism good whammons belong in the kitchen or, whatever. It's not sus when you're in a neighborhood full of white people if you're a white person. I'm speaking to white people right now specifically. Or that everyone running everything is a white guy. Like, why do we ever be like, that's not something to be like, what the fuck? It's a lot of this like environmental pilling you. And I think that also can be applied to help the world, by just, it's already, this is what you do. This is in your interest and you do the thing. And then the rest kind of falls into place.
Okay, I just want to say Tamoka Killingbird said something really funny in the chat, and it was a typo. But I think all the British people, so me and Sophie, are gonna find this really funny. Microdosing the black pool to prepare yourself for the red pill. So for those of you that don't understand why that's funny,
we should dose Blackpool.
Blackpool is
water supply.
Is a very impoverished town in the northwest of England. So that's why that's very funny. Okay, just wanted to point that out.
It's the Jersey Shore of Liverpool. It's the whole thing. There was another question there was another thing that was Britain related, and I wanted to say I had a question. So Alexandro Bruxo said I had a question early in the show for the bruvs, and I think that you're using bruvs as a to refer to all British people. I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
personally. Can you just
terms
not?
of service.
Some Brits are birds.
As well.
Wait, why? Is that for real?
Specifically because I mean sincerely that it's an abbreviation of like brother, and like I'm a
so
woman.
It's a misgendering thing. Got it.
That thing.
Bird, I believe is
noted.
the term.
I didn't know
please,
that.
That's
right.
Exactly.
Please call me bird or hen or hey you bitch, like whatever. Like
birdophobia.
By the way, all allowed on Twitch. These are all terms allowed on Twitch. For the record.
Yeah, exactly.
I love
that's true.
the ultimate Chevy slang stuff. Like that's so good. Like when you just can't even tell. Like they're speaking English, but they're just like speaking something else.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
Roast over. Alexandro Bruxo says, not just to the host, but anyone not just the host, but it's not really about any black pill. I think it kind of is, but this is for UK chat as well. Is Labour effectively Blairized? How much of old Labour is there? Labour's fucked. Firstly, like this show doesn't really cover electoral politics that much because none of us really care. But like Labour has been fucked since before Blair, but even more so since Blair, and Corbyn was like a breath of fresh air, but like you saw how hard the entire country worked to destroy him. It's fucked. It's not gonna, and also, I mean, electoral politics in the UK, like we started out the stream, you might have missed it, but we started out the stream with a reading of like the bills that the Tories are going to try and push through, and several of them are about how hard they're working to make sure that no other party than the Conservatives ever wins an election ever again. So,
a little bit.
I want to make sure we don't talk about this too long because we want to talk about the black pill a little bit less in the stream. So let's try to focus on the black pill question.
Just
but we have Mildred here
bit.
especially because
Sorry, no, you can move on.
You don't think I have cogent thoughts on British electoral politics?
I was just saying, just for
like
a little idea. Just for a little idea of like the state of electoral politics in the UK. So the election where Jeremy Corbyn was supposed to be elected Prime Minister, there was a voter turnout of 67%. The registered amount of voters in the UK is 47 million, which is only just over 2/3 of the population. And election, it's not mandatory. You don't have to vote. But just for an example, in Cuba, I've been learning a lot about Cuba recently. It's one of the best
boss
countries.
Baby vibes from this election.
Right. In Cuba, it is not mandatory to vote, and there is pretty consistently a 98% turnout.
Jesus.
Wow.
I mean, you build a better society, people are more interested in
But actually, it's not
turns out your vote mattering has a big impact on whether people vote. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I mean, in 2017, Jeremy Corbyn lost being Prime Minister by 2,000 votes when there were, like, inside the party people working incredibly hard to sabotage him. There are some people who, if any notion of justice existed in the electoral system, would be in jail now, and Jeremy Corbyn would be Prime Minister, and we would be what, like 4 years into that term? Think about how good that Britain would be. Electoral politics is fucked. Let's move on.
Also, Peter Mandelson is on Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs, and he is advising Keir Starmer.
Cool.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cool
Thanks for that shout out. Shout out to my boy P-Man. Yep.
Yep.
Anyway,
let's go.
Another question. What do we got?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
There's
I had a
one,
question. I was gonna. No,
I
you
saw
can read one.
someone. I saw.
I see
yeah.
one from Crad Babes. Question: major problem with the left in the last few decades has been the stepping back from the trash of educating the public in such a way as they can properly analyze and understand the problems and contradictions that have become so obvious to everyone, leaving the far right to step in with their answers. How do we go about that job of mass public education, directly or indirectly, and raising class consciousness? That's a good one. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, like a lot of that stuff is what all of us are kind of tackling in our own little ways or whatever. But I'm guessing that crowd-based probably means more like, I guess, like on a community level as opposed to just like online or whatever. I don't know, like, I mean, I'm like constantly like, I would say like evangelizing, but that's probably a strong word for it to people around me. And I think that like one of the things that I try and focus on, which is like seems like just a total like mind-blowing concept to a lot of people in on like Twitter left or whatever, is that we just want to make communism cool again, and like a big part of it is not just being a fucking weird nerd on the internet. So, which I think is like important. But like just like, so like when I'm talking to people, like even just at work, like when I'm like tattooing people and talking to them about stuff or whatever like that, there's like a lot of this thing like, oh, like you're a communist? Like I thought that was like some weird like North Korean thing, some shit like that, and it's just like, no, it's just like, like this is a thing, and it's like it is actually really normal, and it's like it, like the reason why people think it's weird is because of like this protracted kind of like propaganda thing or whatever like that. So a lot of it is just like being seen as like a visible communist like in your community, whether it's like doing work, just going about your business, like whatever like that, just like being open about your political ideas and aspirations is I think a really important thing.
I've even said, I tweeted this the other day, that I'm now just expecting everyone to be a communist, and I just expect that. Now I know that's not the case, but it's not like I have to admit something to you. This whole time, I'm just like, yeah, it's we're communist. Wait, you're not like communist? Like, wait, you're not? You would think this is working? Like treating again? It's the thing we were talking about, or I was talking about a lot. It's the like environment just pilling you because you're there. And how do people get to where they are? They didn't make the decision. They were just part of the environment. If you just treat it like that's normal, I mean, it's extraordinarily weird at this point. There's more and more normies are like, if they're not anti-capitalist per se, they are certainly not super excited about it. That's definitely for sure. 100%.
We certainly live in a more politicized age, right? And that means that a lot more people have learned about the way the world works to some degree. A lot of them live in a fake reality for sure. But like a lot of people have learned about the way the world works, and that does make you baseline just like, fuck that shit. I remember I was saying to Mule, like, there's that old story, like, kind of colonialist, a bit racist story about this guy, like the shoe salesman going to Africa, and they're like, one of them is like, none of them have shoes yet, so it's one of them's like, none of them wear shoes, so it's hopeless, and the other one's like, great marketing opportunity, none of them wear shoes yet. And now with that with that aside, I was saying to Mule, like, a lot of people seem to be like, no one calls himself a communist, we're fucked, like look how few communists there are. And my perspective is, fantastic opportunity. None of them have realized they're communists yet, because literally every fucking person wants to like take care of other people around them.
I know
they just don't know it.
I know it's like
go ahead, Mildred.
Oh yeah, go.
No, it's just I think I fundamentally disagree with the premise of the question that the left has done a bad job of educating people. I think it's instead.
I mean, like, compared to like I'm not facing the odds, it's like, wow, like you've actually done a really good job.
But like the way that the media landscape is controlled and owned by like billionaires. So of course it naturally reflects the capitalist perspective. Like the entire education apparatus, it's all designed to like not let people think of these things. And the fact that like these ideas don't go away ever, no matter like the unbelievable amount of barriers in the way to having these ideas, and the fact that people still have them, I think speaks to like how, like if tomorrow you were able to Thanos snap out all communists and socialists and every work of theory that's ever been penned, within 10 years, there would be another communist movement.
1,000%, yes.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I
It's
I also had issues with the question. I do think, like, we've done a bad job. The left has been deliberately eradicated for centuries by evil scumbags.
The
but
most
it's
powerful
kind of a
I don't have
like
the
one-sided
machine on the
fight.
planet. It's the most powerful entity that is has infiltrated like essentially almost every aspect of our like existence, more or less. Like even our own like even
Mule was
sex
holding on to
toys,
something
like
courageous here.
masturbation is now infiltrated by capitalism. Even our feelings, like our emotional realizations is infiltrated when we go to therapy, that's infiltrated by capitalism. Our ability to like live is now gatekept by capitalism in a multitude of ways, in the most intimate of ways. Like the fact that we're still able to have this movement, I think is a success and should not be like devalued. Personally,
Mule was holding on to something, and I feel bad because we
forgot.
No.
Forgot. Sorry.
You gotta start. You gotta start writing these things down, Mule.
I have a fucking notepad. I have a notepad.
To bring it
my brain is not normal. That's all it is.
This is now an ableist stream. I apologize.
I can't believe you've done ableism.
I'm sorry.
Chud Bunny does a no growth
I'm
again.
sorry, I'm back to my
Bullying
roots.
people with ableism. No, I guess
to come back to it a little bit, like I think like one thing that is really good, like I mean, because like the main thing, right, is like the tying in the struggle that people see around them to class consciousness and stuff like that, and like a way that you can do that in your community aside from just like, you know, like being a cool communist or whatever is I think like, you know, like when you look at things like the way that, you know, like people became radicalized in the early days in Vietnam, also in like with the Black Panther Party and stuff, is like things like reading groups where it's like people just, you know, like not just kind of, you know, like if you're doing like, you know, community organizing in other ways or whatever like that, you can always kind of like start getting together with, you know, like the people that you're working with or whatever, and just like reading through theory together, like not just like a book club where you go away and you read it and come back together or whatever like that, but like, you know, like actually sitting down in a room together and reading things and talking about them and stuff. And this can be like example, you know, like writings by people or written works by people that are revolutionaries or that is like relevant to whatever your org is doing or whatever like that. But I find that like any time that I've been involved in any kind of like IRL, sitting in a room with a bunch of people that, you know, have the same ideas, or even just like people that are kind of like maybe a little bit more liberal, but they're, you know, they're here because they like, you know, maybe they saw like around like the BLM kind of times and stuff, like when the George Floyd protests were happening, there was a lot of liberal people showing up at like prison abolitionist kind of orgs and things like that just for meetings, because they're like, I don't know what's up, you know, whatever. And so you know, there might be people that are like a bit more liberal or whatever, but actually sitting down and talking about these ideas is like a really like a galvanizing experience. And it's
I
like,
can speak for that personally.
Yeah, something that like gets people excited, and like, you know, even if you only have like, you know, like 10 people or less in the room or whatever like that, all those people are going to get excited and they're going to go out and they're going to be talking about these things at work or whatever like that. So I think like that's like a small thing that is like very like it's difficult to kind of like you know, like to kind of downplay the effectiveness of it, like things, just little things like that, you know, like
I think that's
anyway,
that's something that's come up across organizing interviews every time I've asked people about like,
oh wow, yeah, cool,
reaching out to people literally like consistently across organizations. I have people being like, read books together, like get people to read a cool book with all the ideas in it. Please read a book. Like when Emmy was on, she was just like, we just have to read theory. There's no other way around it. Pretending like people can just not read theory isn't actually, people get them to read the theory. That's what she was. I think she said like what the fuck was it? She was just like, if everybody read theory, it would be solved tomorrow. Like, I mean, not completely. I'm sure there would be a lot more arguing, but like the most of it,
we don't
the
know
biggest
what we had
part
to
would be
do,
over
yeah.
the biggest bit, right? And you know, to bring back to CHC, the interview I did earlier today, they literally were saying like what they do is they're on a Zoom call with people while they're making masks. Like they make masks to give out to people, and they make like air purifiers for people in Oakland and shit like this. And while they're on a Zoom call and they're individually working on their batch to get through, they're reading like Rosa Luxemburg or whatever, and then chatting about it. And that's just like, fuck yeah, just do that. Like that rocks.
Yeah, totally. There's I saw I've seen a couple comments, people saying that they have trouble reading and they have trouble doing this kind of stuff. Like as a kind of group exercise though, it's a lot easier because like even if you're just like taking turns at reading paragraphs to each other or something like that, it's a lot easier to kind of get through. And then you're like talking about stuff at the end of chapters and all this kind of stuff. Because I mean, like a lot of theory can be dense and it can be, you know, like it's easy just to get in that mode where you're just skimming through or whatever. But if you're actually like doing it as an activity, then I think it's a lot easier to kind of take in. And Tale of Two Rabbit also mentioned there's a power to storytelling that a lot of lefties don't realize, and that it actually like ties in a lot to, you know, like there's like a lot of indigenous stuff about like group storytelling and group oration and things like that, which is like once again a very like community building kind of exercise.
Well,
yeah,
I just
go on.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I interrupted you before. Go on.
Okay,
My God,
thank
mule.
you. I know. I love you. Okay, so yeah, I was saying to Birdie Blake because again, like Tim said, people were saying like I find it a struggle to, you know, absorb this stuff sometimes. There's like a lot of people who make theory like very accessible, you know, in different ways, like, you know, just making videos about it. There's three people who do this in this panel, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like a lot easier to kind of understand the basis of a lot of theory if you like consume leftist content on YouTube and stuff like that. Of course, it's not like the same as reading the whole book, but as long as you get like the basic idea, because I think a lot of people get tied up in academics, right? Academia. It's like, okay, you have to completely have read and comprehended all of the fucking diagrams and maths that Marx does when he's talking about the length of fucking linen, right? And it's like,
yards
no.
of linen,
I still have nightmares about yards of linen. God damn
Right.
it,
Check the math too. You have to
Right.
make sure
Oh,
your
yeah,
calculations.
You got to
Don't
read.
just take it on faith.
That's right, exactly. And if you find one error, which you will, then it's not okay. Like Marx is
I would love
bad,
to find
problematic.
an error in Capital and cancel Marx. That'd be so good.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's important. It's important to remember that. It's important to remember that, like, yeah. And I think that Tim, like what you said, is like so important as well. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't do because of alienation. You know, like these reading groups and stuff like this, and like, you know, storytelling, like around, you know, with friends and stuff. It's so valuable, and it's something that we don't get. 9 times out of 10 when people get together as friends in the UK, they just like get so drunk they almost die. Do you know what I mean? It's like what are we achieving here? Like, you know, has anyone learned anything? No. So yeah, really good point.
I wanted to add on to the storytelling thing that, like, I intend to make video games. It's one of the things I want to do in life, and all of those video games are going to be exactly along that idea. Like, I want to communicate ideas to people, and I think the single best way you can actually communicate ideas is through a story. And part of the reason that I found this, again, Climate Leviathan, Joel Wainwright, Jeff Mann, like so compelling is that it's about the future. We actually, like, one thing that we've been lacking, and we definitely lack when we're black-pilled and when we're doomer-pilled, that we can get when we think about the future, is a story that we fit into. Like, people don't have a story that they fit into for communism. They're just like, this is a theory of how the world would work if things were good. But they have a story that's like, human nature is so bad, we're so selfish that we choked the planet and burned all the trees up and all this shit. And they fit into that as like another greedy consumer or whatever. But like, if you can fit into a story that's to do with the collapse of a system and people caring for one another and building, you know, networks to take care of one another, I think that's beautiful. And I think it also like is a good way to communicate to people what needs to be done and what's happening.
Yeah.
Cool. I think this is a good point to wrap up the discussion. We could take questions all night, but, you know, we're about to, I mean, we have like a minute left in like time, but we're probably going to go a little bit over because we're going to have to talk about the homework. So let's, first of all, Yeah, let's talk about homework. Let's talk about homework. Homework chats. Did y'all do it? Do you remember what it was? Are chatters good? Did chatters behave? Chat.
I'm very curious about this homework because it was a really big step up, and like it's like the homework thing is all kind of tongue in cheek, obviously. Like it's always fine if you don't just do anything.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Like
but
I am curious to see the translation between week 1 we were like go and join a union. Week 2 we like get involved in some kind of action, be it through a mutual aid network and you're helping people get what they need, or
even saying hi to your neighbor and introduce yourself to your neighbors.
I just want to shout out what Putbug said in the chat. I tried, but it's going to take me more than a week. Yes.
Huh. Yeah.
Yes.
That's okay.
That's good.
Yeah, so don't feel bad if that's the case.
And don't feel bad if you're hearing about it now and you just remember.
No, you must do it within a week or it doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're
communism has failed now because you've all
too
missed
late
it.
and communism can never come. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Damn it, pup.
God damn it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One other thing we have to check in on at the end of this stream is we checked earlier people who were feeling about people who have had like belief that things could change or didn't have that belief. So I guess I'm curious to see from people who put a 0 earlier in the stream, or if you would have but you didn't. Basically, if you at an earlier point did think we're all fucked, we're all gonna die, capitalism cannot be shifted. I want to see ones if we've changed your mind on that, and 0 if we haven't, because I'm just for those people. I just really want to know. Like, I hope that we haven't shifted anyone from having hope against it.
So everyone who
feels specifically want to know. Like...
Yeah, and if everyone else who wants to feel involved, because I know chat always wants to press something. If you feel like you were already hopeful and you still feel hopeful, press 2. So 0 if you don't feel hopeful and you didn't before, you still don't feel hopeful. 1 if you didn't before, but now you do because after this stream. And 2 if you're like, I'm always been hopeful, bitch. All right, look, see, they love
really
to fucking make
some people out.
Liars in chat. There are so many.
They love
liars.
it when you say bad words.
Okay, I've seen at least 2 people who we did help, and that's really all I wanted.
So why do we have a 1 0? We have a bunch of ones.
Make some people feel to get that, to get it.
Well, here's the thing, chat. Every single episode of this show is going to be about killing the black pill. It's just that today we explicitly kind of talked about the topic in a little kind of a meta way, but every single episode will be about demonstrating successes, about what you can do, like if you don't have to do everything, you can focus on one thing you feel very strongly about, and that can be your thing. Kind of like picking like a major in college or something like that, but instead it's it's like a focus for the you little baby commie little pog champs in the chat. Commies posting W's. That's right.
Yeah, and it's there there are people who are saying 0 but that doesn't mean I'm stopping. Yeah, like that's great. Like that's the attitude that we want to inspire in people.
It's a lot to unstick. It's because I said, no perspective is ever achieved in like a conversation without like seeds already planted in beforehand.
Yes.
The fact that you even like when you're having a conversation with a person, they change your mind. The fact that you even had that conversation with them has a whole bunch of series of events and a mindset you've had to adopt to be able to be in that place. But if you think that I'm not quite there yet, but I do think I could be. I think that you're totally on the right track, and it's nothing to say there's nothing wrong with you or anything like that. Just for the record.
Yeah. And if it was a choice between someone who had no hope and chose to act anyway, and someone who had a great deal of hope and did nothing, the first one, please.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a really, really good thing to add. Yeah,
such a good point.
Yeah. And also like all of this like chat participation stuff. We want you to feel involved, but we don't want anybody to feel judged or anything like this. And like absolutely, there are no deadlines on any of this shit. When we're giving people homework, we're giving people really just a little suggestion for something that we think would be cool and good and make you feel good and also like improve things. So like with that in mind, this week's homework. I felt a little inspired by Mildred's video Slime World, where she outlined a better possible world. And I thought, why don't we get our chatters to go into their community, just where they live, just go and look around. and look at stuff and imagine what it would be like in your ideal world. It might not be physically different, right? For example, we had that McDonald's thing earlier, right? It might not be physically different. It might not serve even a different purpose, really, but like it might work in a different way, right? Think about how it would. That's the homework this week. Just go and have a little look around and think about it. And if you want to, if you have any kind of bright ideas that you think are really neat about the way that the world will be better, why don't you tell us on Twitter? You could just tag us and be like, "Hey,
we love that."
I looked
We
at
will
my
retweet
McDonald's.
it.
I looked at my McDonald's and I thought, "Hey, this is how that would function if people just got food for free, for example, right?"
Sometimes there wouldn't be a McDonald's, but like Sophie said, there could be a completely physically different thing, or it could be the same stuff, but it's like transformed in its function or whatever. Go ahead, whoever's gonna. I talked over like 3 people.
And if you need some ideas or anything, there's a game that we've mentioned a couple times on here by Calestia called A Bewitching Revolution.
Yeah.
It's on itch. I'll send a little link to it. I'll put it in the chat. It's a fun little game. You can like pay what you want for it, where you are the little witch of the city and you walk around your city and it's your job to do magic to kind of remake the city into this kind of like little like, you know, communist town or whatever like that. And so it's basically just going around and like, you know, like looking at things and then you're like, okay, well, you know, like this would be better if it was like trees or something like that, you know? But it's all about, you know, community gardens, building organizations,
so cool.
unions, things like that. It's really fun and it's just like a cool little thing like you might do. And then, you know, when you're like walking around your city, you might be like, oh yeah, remember when, you know, like this was a thing or whatever. So that's like a fun little thing you can do as a little aside for extra credit. That's not your homework, but that's extra credit.
That's the thing. The game is an hour long, so it's not going to take you long to play at all. It also contains a line better than any theory I've ever read, even though it's just an hour-long video game, which is that there is graffiti on the wall in the prison while there is a prison riot going on, and it says, "They can shoot us to death, but they can never shoot us back to work." And I was just like, I saw that and I got chills, and I think about that line every day of my life. Like, that fucking rocks.
There's a lot of really good little lines there. But yeah, anyway,
awesome game.
I want to make sure that we do this because it's kind of a little bit of a backtrack. But if you're anything like me and you go out and you do a thing, you kind of want a little bit of like a teacher, I did it. So if you did the homework for last week, press 1 in the chat. I want to see who did the homework. I want you all to feel like you got your little gold star. Who did the homework for last week?
We'll also give
reached out
on Twitter if you tell us about your ideal world a bit.
Talk to a neighbor, you joined an org, you did some sort of real world, basically did like a real world communism, essentially. Press 1 if you did that.
instituted global communism.
If you made communism
yeah,
happen,
if you destroyed, if you abolish capitalism, please press 1.
Even just within your own house, you know. We started small.
Yeah. I'm liking this.
This is great. There's actually like a lot more ones than I thought because it is like a bit more of an ask.
Yeah.
And there is definitely like some people who were like here previously, they might not be here now, who were saying before that they started doing stuff as well. So there's extra.
I need to highlight a really interesting message that I see in the chat here, which backs up something we've been saying the entire stream. Mr. Fishy says, 1. Hence why I'm a 2 today.
Yeah, great.
They came into this chat already having votes because they took part in something since last week.
Nice.
How fucking cool is that?
Oh, that's fantastic. Because last week, Mildred, the week before at least, the homework was to join a union, or if you're in a union, join another union. If you're already in another union, you can do an extra credit and be like, you know, get somebody else in a union. But a lot of you joined unions and it was super cool. So I guess that extension of that is now you can be participating in some sort of an organization, which is awesome to see.
So sick.
Very fucking cool.
You will get so much hopium from going and doing this stuff. Like it's like we've said already, it's like once you go out there and
wild how much
it is. We get trapped in our, like, it's not the same as the liberal mind prison, but we get trapped in like our own version of a mind prison where it's like, Jesus Christ, like everything's fucked, like, and that's it. Especially if you just don't and I know it sounds like really, harsh to say, but like if we just don't bother and just like don't really, get involved with anything, then yeah, of course, like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are going to end up feeling shit. And I think the best thing that we could end on is just, reiterating that, like, this is how capitalism wants you to feel. This is how the media wants you to feel. So you don't organize. So you don't join a union. So you don't speak to your neighbors. So you don't develop a loving and caring, empathetic
You just lie down and
vision
rot.
of the world. Right.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
While working.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Most people who don't know a lot of socialists in real life find it very cringy to call someone comrade. But when you're in a room full of people for the first time that all agree with the shit that you've always felt is this fringe outlook on the world, and they're telling you like, no, you're not going mad, like I agree with you. It's a sense of camaraderie you don't get other places, and it's very uplifting.
It is extraordinary. And you can't,
powerful.
don't think that, and I'm not saying this to try to like alienate anyone who is physically unable to enter certain spaces, but there is something extraordinarily special about like I know COVID makes it hard too as well, and also work schedules, blah, 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 but physically being like you said in a room with a bunch of people that like people, not like people like you can like, wow, you're an actual flesh and blood, and we all are in agreement. We all have this like, it's a very like intimate connection that you already have, and it's so like inspiring and like just it's awesome. It's just fucking awesome, and it's really hard to mimic that really anywhere else. And sometimes we feel like that's not the like, oh, that can't be that awesome because all we have is like Twitter or something or a Twitch chat room. Now, don't get me wrong, experiences like this I think are extraordinarily valuable, but I think there's something irreplaceably valuable about joining an organization and like being in the presence of others that are, on board with this shit. Other comrades, if you will. Anyways.
Did the Red Planet hosts do the homework this week? Did any of us do a thing IRL?
I am desperately trying to get in touch with.
I didn't know I had to do homework.
I
thought I did enough.
I just want to reassure the chat further that you don't actually have to do it by talking about whether we did.
Yeah. Like here's the thing. This is why it was projection, really, when I was talking about that person who said it was going to be more than a week. Right. Because I've been desperately trying to get a hold of the organizer from 0161 community that we spoke about last week.
Oh, cool.
Sometimes it's just hard to get hold of people, and someone got in touch with me. I've got ADHD, as you've witnessed here on the stream tonight, and they texted me when I was thinking about something very important, obviously, and I just forgot to respond. So, it's a thing. It's a thing. But progress, I think, and now I'm being serious, progress is not linear. It's not linear. Just because you were going like this and something like this brings you like that, it doesn't mean that you're like back down here.
Yeah.
When you pick yourself up, you're back up here again. And you just have to keep going. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can ask you to do better than your best.
Yeah.
Right.
The revolution will happen next week when Mule remembers.
When
I
Tim,
remember,
were you going to say you did a thing?
Mule is about to institute the revolution, but we kept interrupting him. So
You're right. You're
So
right.
you
I
do
had
that one
so
quick
many
trick
good
for
ideas.
revolution. We all distracted him. I'm so sorry. And attracted him again. Look at him. Look at him. He's
Capitalist
losing
hate
it. He's losing his mind. I'm cutting him off in the moment while we're talking about cutting him off.
You have to cut me off.
Tim, you did a thing?
I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna say I
really sorry,
do a lot of stuff where I volunteer my time to like groups and orgs and stuff like that just to do like art and design stuff. So I've done a couple things lately. One of them I've just started for last week, which probably counts as something, working towards an IRL thing is probably what I've got. But yeah, like doing stuff like for groups like Papa and like Organized Aotearoa and all that kind of stuff like that. I've done like little things here and there, but there's one that I'm working on at the moment that I can't really say too much about what it is because it's not like a public thing yet, and it's kind of something that might be like, I guess, like, I don't know, I don't want to like legally I don't want to say anything about it just yet, but
Is it a surprise party for me? You can, it's okay.
It is.
Oh my god, I knew it.
Oh,
yeah.
I knew it.
But
I knew it.
there's a lot of stuff that you can do that are working towards our goals that aren't necessarily just like like going out and like I guess like there's like if you're a creative person, there's creative things you can do. And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably my homework for the week, I would say.
Very cool. Well, I think what we're going to do now is wrap up this by thanking Thoughtslime for being here, and everyone can clap for all of us. And then I think we're going to say goodbye to you all, and then I will do a full screen and say the last few thank yous to the donors, and then we'll rate somebody. So chat, put your hands together, bun clap or bun clap F if you're not a subscriber. Let's all thank Thoughtslime. No.
You couldn't possibly clap enough. Don't worry.
Listen, let's elevate you on the tippity top of this hierarchy. And thank you, our guest, for being here. Actually, super thank you. And it's really great to finally be able to like.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's I'm a fan, and so this has been cool for me. And we've watched a ton of your stuff. I know a ton of people in my community are big fans of you, and thank you for being so awesome. Thank you for being so tirelessly awesome, and making such a great content and being such a kind, like considerate, just a good fucking person. I know, just whatever. But I think you're a great person. Yeah, I know. It's disgusting. I'm sorry.
They hate this so much, Nicole.
I don't care. I don't care. It's for me at this point. It's not even about you. It's not about anybody. It's just for me. You're the best.
Oh, jeez.
But no, honestly, you're fantastic.
They showed me a horrible thing in CringeCon yesterday, and when you see, you're gonna retract all of this. You're gonna be like, "How could you treat Sophie like this?"
But yeah, so thank you so much for being
Chuck
here.
Bunny calls Sophie's abuser the best.
Can you believe it? Yes, I can.
Oh,
okay, so make sure you drop. Can mods in the chat? Chloe already did it. There's Thoughtslime's Twitter. And Thoughtslime's YouTube. If you want to YouTube, if you want to follow Thoughtslime on Twitch, you don't stream as regularly as nearly like
every Thursday.
Oh, never mind. Every Thursday. Thursdays are my Super Monday, so I literally am the dumbest person on Thursday, so that's probably why I didn't know that. So yeah, make sure you drop a follow to there. Thank you, Chloe. I'm trying to figure out how to be a mod, but anyways, everyone. Follow Thoughtslime on all the things everywhere. Like, subscribe everywhere.
Follow me around if you see me on the street.
Yeah, high five. Give them cash. It's just a nice thing to do to a comrade. Just give them.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Anyways, but thank you so much for being here. And
my pleasure.
Yeah. All right, cool. And thank you again also to all the rest of the hosts. We have Conquest of Dread. So youtube.com/ Conquest of Dread. Can we just do that? Is that YouTube? Yeah. Okay. Then we have DJ Mule, who has a YouTube channel, but mainly streams from twitch.tv/DJ Mule. Also found at twitter.com/DJ Mule1. And then we have
DJ Mule _.
Yeah.
Oh, who am I thinking of?
Close.
So close.
God, I'm really blowing it, aren't I?
You're probably thinking of the username you said.
That probably is what I'm thinking. And then we have
You've taken on too much work, Nicole, because you normally make us do this.
Yeah, we would do this.
We would do this.
Well, okay. You know what, Sophie?
She's just sick of us. She's just sick of hearing us speaking.
Then Sophie, go ahead. You shout yourself out.
Well, I am Sophie from Mars. I'm Sophie from Mars on all the platforms. That's where you can find me. Sophie from Mars is where my YouTube channel is, where I do video essays and stuff. Oh, and organizing interviews that I was talking about this whole stream. That's where that will be. So go YouTube, search Sophie from Mars, or it's youtube.com/Sophie from Mars. I've said my username too many times now, and it's
it's not
like
so easy, is it?
A non-word.
Not so easy.
Doesn't make sense anymore. It's not real.
But organizing interviews will be there, and it'll be weekly from next week. So go check that out. It'll be cool.
All right.
By the way, Sophie from Mars, Red Planet, just got that today.
Yeah, it's a cute little connection. Yeah.
Also, we're huge fans of Elon Musk, clearly. So, obviously, Red Planet, let's go. Colonize Mars, win.
It's the first account that the Twitter followed, yeah.
That's right.
That's actually really funny. All right, well, thanks, chat, for joining us, and we will catch you next Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, which is 5 p.m. Eastern, and then some other times in the UK and elsewhere, which you would think I would know this by now, so you know.
Yep.
10 p.m. UK time.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
11 a.m. on Mondays in New Zealand.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Tim lives in the
Agent
future.
Slime reporting in. Yeah, I think they bought it.
Oh, I'm still on the phone to the CIA handler.
All right, bye everyone. I'm getting
Oh
bailing.
no!
Bugging.
Revealed.
Bugging later.
Say what it's going to be next week. We're going to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
protest and riot tactics with the Nazis
Yes.
library.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, it's episode 3. I'm trying to keep it together, chat. I'm trying my best to keep it together. How'd you like it, chat? Was it good? Did you have fun, chat? Did you have a good time? This little sweet little chat. My sweetest little chatters enjoyed themselves today. I have a good headache from this, if you can believe that. I can kind of believe that, I think. What's the screen in the corner for? It's for your mind. Also, this is for Samba, my rabbit. I don't just eat celery off the floor. I am vegan, but I'm not that vegan. It was so fantastic. Yay! Have the star. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Putting stuff together is hard. Thanks for putting the labor. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.